Ready for the mosh pit, Shaka Bra.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to StrangeCast, Player One vs. World's Life is Strange podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Adnan. My co-host Adam is here. Adam, you here?
I am here. I'm looking at little Grover Washington Jr. right here. Look at that. Look at that little guy. Look at that little guy. Isn't he snazzy? Rest in peace, by the way. Mwah. Grover Washington Jr. Listen to his
Second
music.
consecutive appearance for Grover Washington. In
God, I
StrangeCast. He
love
was in there
Grover
last
Washington Jr., dude. Oh my God, my favorite jazz musician of all time. Get out of here. Get out of here with your like Miles Davis. No, Grover Washington. Boom.
Adam, we have a big episode now. Unfortunately, we can't like stray away from this because it's a big episode. And
Why
as
can't we
you've
talk
probably
about
seen-
Grover Washington for 2 hours?
Unfortunately, not, because this is I think a lot of people have been waiting for this, and the reaction has been telling as well. Unfortunately,
right.
so as you probably know as well, Lost Records Journal has taken a back burner seat because we have moved it into a back-to-back StrangeCast episode because this is episode 85. This is our Life is Strange double exposure review and spoilercast episode. It is the big one since we've started doing this podcast. I think now, if anything, because the only other game we've reviewed on this actual podcast since it started was True Colors, but we're now on double exposure.
Didn't we review The Expanse?
Oh, sorry, we reviewed The Expanse, we reviewed the Remaster Collection. Actually, yeah, fair enough. Actually, we've got a couple of games. Kind of, memory lapse there for me. Yeah, so we're mainly the Deck 9 games, if anything. We've reviewed the Deck 9 games from that. But yeah, anyway, before we start as well, obviously, big conversation coming up. But if you are new here, as always, please do drop a subscribe on the channel, turn notifications, like the video, and share with your friends. Help support the channel. The channel is growing quite a bit, so thank you so much to everyone who has followed recently. And also, StrangeCast is available on all podcast services. So we're available on Spotify with the video version, Apple Podcasts are available and everything. So go over there, follow us, rate us, and you instantly get access to your episodes as soon as they become available. We have 32 ratings now on Spotify at 4.9, which is thank you so much for that. And also we now have about 257 to 259 followers, I think, on Spotify. So we've passed the 250 mark. So thank you again so much for that. Adam, before we start, I'm going to make a bit of a PSA because, again, thank you to everyone who supported StrangeCast for the last couple of weeks because we've seen significant success. I think the Emma Vicelli episode that we did in terms of the conversation about her canon has got over 2,000.
Don't mind me, I'm taking off my flannel, so
he's getting ready.
Yeah, the heat's coming on, and the heat's going to be blasting in this place.
Yeah, he is.
PSA time.
So, just to be like with that, thank you so much for the support recently for StrangeCast because a lot of people have come here. We've got like a big success in the last two episodes. Both have crossed over 1,000. The one before that has crossed 2,000. So thank you so much. That's really appreciated considering how long we've done the podcast and run the channel for as well. And thank you again to everyone who's been very respectful of like not talking about spoilers in the comments. However, officially, as of today, all spoilers are available. Every conversation we'll do will have spoilers in them. And also as well, future StrangeCast episode, I will warn again in the next episode, but we will be talking about spoilers. There'll be no kind of jumping in the comments being like, I haven't played the game. Officially, the game is out now. It would be stupid for us to try and avoid spoilers in any conversations going forward.
Only eating spoiled yogurt, like only spoiled things.
Yes, you're going to be eating spoiled yogurt if you listen
spoiled
to this and
meat,
you haven't played it.
Everything spoiled is on the table.
But it's an FYI because it's going to be on the channel. It's going to be in the thumbnails and stuff because we're going to need a variation, the thumbnails, because the thumbnails have been very beige for the last couple of weeks because we've been really respectful people who didn't buy the Ultimate Edition. And again, we warned you not to buy that. If you didn't buy it, you saved yourself quite a bit of money. But yeah, we're going to do it because we need to have conversations about different topics, different things. So I will warn you one more time in the next episode, but spoilers are officially on the table now for among many other conversations, including titles and also among all those things. So as we've done here, and I said to Adam before, I joked with him, I said, it's quite nice not to do the show notes because that does take a lot of my time up in terms of building StrangeCast show. But we are basically this is a dedicated segment to Life is Strange Double Exposure as a review and spoiler cast. I know there are a couple of interviews that have come out, but I think we'll have to pick them up when we do the next StrangeCast, or we might just leave them. But we are going to do a full-blown review, spoiler cast, and it'll also have a StrangeCast rating as well, which we'll kind of go through the scale later, which we'll do. So to start with, there will be a review section. Then there'll be a spoiler cast section that is all hands on deck, and there's also going to be a review score at the end of it. They will be timestamped in this podcast. I'm not going to mark specific topics, but if you do want to go and check them out, they are. That includes, like, in the spoiler cast, there will be stuff about Max and that known character, as they keep calling him. All those conversations will be addressed in the spoiler cast. So I will just be marking this video very beige with the timestamps, which is review, Spoilercast and review score from us at the end. So Adam, I think the best part to start with obviously is the review section, and again this will be spoiler free from main story points. There's going to be talking about some of the good things we like, some of the bad things we didn't like. Would you like to start first, if anything?
Yeah, I'm gonna read what I wrote on Channel 3. I'm not gonna say what I reviewed it as. But I wrote out a sentence and you even applauded me for it. My take on this game, it's a peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich. There are elements in it that are in other contexts would be great, but in combination it just leaves a weird taste in your mouth. I think what I like about this game is everything that I hate about this game.
Mhm.
When I say it's a peanut butter mayonnaise sandwich, it's there are just like some things that work,
Yep.
but when they're in combination with it, it is just weird. I'll give you one example that's not really spoilery. The music. The music in this game is fan. I'm not going to say any other words besides like fantastic, dude. Like the music is great, but within the context of a murder mystery, it doesn't have its place at times. You know, like I'll get into a point where like the scene's getting a little bit more tense, and I'll press pause, and you got Tessa Rose Jackson, dun, 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 like a very nice melody.
Yeah.
It's again, it's like these two combination of things that are fantastic on a separate occasion, on a separate context.
Yeah.
It's just I have thoughts, but I enjoy it as a game, but there's some things that I just can't get past.
I agree with you, and my kind of visual cue for this game in terms of like if I was going to compare it to anything, it's almost like everyone's in an office and they're all sat in cubicles, but no one speaks to each other. So it bounces off what you're talking about in terms of the music. So for example,
Yeah,
Tessa
no
Rose Jackson.
communication. Yeah,
No communication, anything. So, for example, when you talk about that, it feels like all of Tessa Rose Jackson's music on the soundtrack is very much on the murder mystery side of things, or the
yeah.
supernatural murder mystery elements of the plot. But then you have stuff like obviously Chloe Morondo, you have New Dad, you
New
have all these
Dad.
different songs, and they're all quite varying. So it's like the soundtrack, whilst phenomenal, and I think it is phenomenal from Tessa Rose Jackson. I think it is one of the standout features from this game. It is quite limited in certain respects in terms of the
There's
range of
not
it
enough
because it
Test
feels like
Rose. There's not enough.
yeah. And also as well, and I would be bold enough to even suggest that, for example, you could have just done Tessa Rose Jackson doing all the songs. So it's just Tessa Rose Jackson composing every song, writing them, and playing them. And it's like at least you have just a composer's
Yeah,
vision. Very different from anything Life is Strange has done before, obviously. But I feel like
wholeheartedly.
if you're going to like evolve something, this would be the evolution point where it's like you actually try and take it hands on, give the grips to a composer and let them do it. But as you said, it's like, you have these variation of different songs. It's like, you hear Tessa Rose like dun 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 in the menu, and it's like, hang on a minute, it feels out of cue among many other
Yeah,
things in the thing. But it is one of the standout features from the soundtrack. It is very good. It's just limited in range. It's like it needs a bit more. And I think if anything, I agree with you as well, it needs more Tessa Rose Jackson because it needs like her to create
mhm,
the Chloe Morondo tracks, for example, do you want like a bit like September, maybe one or two of those that you can kind of insert into the soundtrack and then they can
yes.
play within different sequences. But ultimately, it feels like a group project where everyone's gone away and certain people have delivered and other people haven't. And that's the problem with this game. And it feels like when you put all the group project together, it's been a scattergun of fire of ideas, and the people who've done individual things have stood out in this game. That's my kind of assessment on this game, because ultimately, and very simply, and again, we're just in the review segment, it's not a very good game. And where
Mhm.
it's at now and the way it's being perceived in the Life is Strange community and the reaction it's getting, a lot of it is overly charged negative. And I agree with that as well, because it is, for me, where I'm at, and I'm just looking at it, I'm like, it's not delivered on a lot of fronts. It's got a lot of
Mm.
issues. It's got a lot of problems. The soundtrack is outstanding.
Let
I
me
think
ask you real quick. When you say it's not a good game, did you face any like game breaking bugs? Because I didn't find any too many glitches on my end.
I didn't see that many. I did see one from not,
Oh, I saw it. Yeah, from
yeah,
Price Field.
Pricefield. Again, second time you've done this in episodes. Nice Field.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, nice field.
I hope Nicefield calls you out for that as well. I said that as well. I was like, pointed out in the last video,
Not
I was
so
like, you should
nice,
go and
Summer.
yell at him.
Yeah.
But no, Nicefield point that out. There's also one where I seen it, I'm floating on Twitter with Loretta Rice and her face has disappeared. And it's just like
Yeah.
a beanie. And it's just like, it's
I
like,
forgot about, but like for me, I just didn't really find any. This is the same thing as I faced in the remastered. Like you were facing all the everybody's having all the glitches. I wasn't really facing them. I
Yeah.
guess Xbox is superior. I don't know. That we can come to the conclusion if you want to.
Well, let's not talk. No, um, no, I didn't experience loads, Adam. I think my
Yeah,
actual
I was
end.
just curious on your end.
I did see a lot of people say that. I saw maybe a little bit of performance stuttering in certain episodes, certain chapters.
Some,
Um,
not
yeah,
not a ton for me.
but I didn't really see anything that broke the game, if anything.
Mhm.
And generally speaking, I didn't really see anything. Nothing that I've
Yeah.
seen more people memeing about, it, if anything, and enjoying for
Yeah.
that. But I didn't actually see anything that broke my game. So I think it was technically again. It did have that thing with Life is Strange games where there are technical limitations, and
Yes.
that is an issue with again the series in general. But speaking of which, no, not really, which is kind of surprising because other people like having
Yeah, I was surprised that it ran as smoothly as it did for me because of
Mhm.
the time lapse thing, like the way like that puzzle and the pulse, like everything that was seen in the trailers. I'm like, oh man, how is this game gonna work? Because I feel like that's gonna like glitch out sometime. It didn't. Like it actually ran pretty. I put mine, by the way, on performance mode, not quality.
uh
Did you have quality?
do you know what? I couldn't remind you because there was so many options in the menu. I was like, I kind of like
Yeah, I put
after I
mine on
fiddled
performance. Yeah.
after I fiddled with everything, I just kind of gave up on that, and I was like, I'm not going to go back in there. I would probably presume going back into my mindset, I probably did pick performance mode because I usually go with that over graphics because ultimately I'd rather my game run
I'd
if anything will
rather
work.
Yeah, I
Um,
can't, dude. Like, it's my ADHD. If it's like 20 frames, like no, I just shut out. I can't, dude. But
yeah, yeah, it was like I think there are some performance issues, but not enough. I think the animations work fairly well from what I saw,
mm,
and I think that's again reinforced by things because again, like the soundtrack is great, the acting is varying in terms of I think that it is more down to the actors carrying this game because of the narrative, and we'll come on to that later. But
yes,
they really do carry it. Performance direction, I have no problem. Again, I had like literally from the moment it was announced with Web Pickers Guild doing the performance direction, I thought that would be the standout thing, and it is one of the standout things again, as it was with True Colors. Um, and then the location is good, but a little bit limited. It does feel again like an L-shaped town, but in a more of a fixed Caledon area. It felt like I was walking through the same building, the same door, and getting to the same location again and again. And it feels
yeah.
quite restricted. I would sooner rather just do what Life is Strange 1 does, where it transports you to locations in Caledon rather than going through the same things. It feels like I'm in very much like a box. It feels like I'm in a very small little box and
You know,
trying to traverse.
it's funny. I felt more inclined to explore in the L-shaped town of True Colors than I did feel inclined to explore in this town. Like, am I wrong there?
Um,
Like,
no, I don't
what's your
think you
thought?
are.
Hmm.
I don't think you are because I think you become quite I found this experience when you basically would pulse first, then go into the split, and when you do the split again, you're pulsing again to find little things that you might have missed in the other one, and it kind of became a little bit exhausting after a bit. I kind
Yeah.
of agree with you because I kind of like just the fact that I would kind of walk down with Alex and I could go to location, and I'd find something. It felt like I was stopping in each location and pulsing, and then pulsing again and pulsing again, just so I could see if there's anything that's in the other universe or the other timeline that I need to actually go and go and check out. So yeah, no, I think you're fair with that assessment. I think probably as well. I liked seeing
S-
Haven more than Caledon.
Speaking of that, since we're on like this discussion of gameplay and and intuition, uh player not we're not talking about like player choice, but when we were going through the missions,
Mhm.
I felt almost like it wasn't explaining what the objective was. It was very vague and objective. What is your thoughts? Am I stupid? Because I could be stupid.
No,
I did vote for
no,
Harris, so I could be stupid.
no, you're not. It's because you could press the right pad and it'll show you your key objective, but then it'll never give you a clear cut explanation. So sometimes it pop up like be like speak to Vin in Dead World, speak to Gwen in like a live world, speak to or the living world. Sorry, speak to Gwen in the
Yeah,
living world, speak
yeah.
to Lucas in the Dead World, and you kind of like quite a few objectives. Then you're like, hang on a minute, which way am I going? Really, it never give you a clear path of like this needs to be picked
There
up.
was
So it's like,
one objective without spoiling. It was almost just like find evidence for. I'm like,
yeah,
where? Where? I remember I got out of the game and I had to go to work because I had such a busy week at work that I was sending you in the morning. I was on my little walking pad treadmill and just playing the game on my treadmill to do my exercise, going to work, and then when I came back from work to try to beat it, like the objective was just so vague that I forgot what I was doing. I was
Yeah.
like, what's happening here?
Well, that's a systemic issue in the entire gameplay in itself, in terms of puzzles as well. Because, like, for example, I thought with the Abraxas storyline, I'm not going to spoil this, but more in the sense of
Yeah.
the way Abraxas was positioned, and then kind of like the marketing completely led me down the different direction where it's like you
Yes.
basically only find what I can find. And I don't know if there's anyone else that experience, and I've only played it once, but I played it for like a good substantial like 20 hours or something just to kind of get everything in grips. Like when you find an Abraxas cube, you find the Abraxas cube, you do the first puzzle. I think people failed at the second puzzle on the same Abraxas cube. And then I did all that fine, but then it's like there's no other puzzles in the game. So there's no other like little trivia. There's like maybe one or two moments where you do like trying to build the evidence, etc. But the gameplay feels quite limited. It does feel like when people throw like criticism, it's a walking simulator. It did feel like that at times because
Yeah.
it felt like
Yeah.
most of the conversation, it felt like most of the gameplay heavily relied on people pulsing into the other timeline, then jumping into the other timeline, having a conversation, and then jumping back into the other timeline to try and change events. And it felt like, it felt like an overcomplicated version of the rewind mechanic. It was like you could
I
rewind, you just
100%. Which, by the way, little tiny. It happens in the first 10 minutes of the game. Okay.
fair.
Did you try pulling the left trigger at
Yeah.
all, bro? She
Quite a few times.
says it. I'm like, oh my god, that's so funny, dude.
Did you try pulling at the end of the game?
No, I didn't try pulling at the end. No.
Would you try pulling her new powers at the end of the game?
Did I? Maybe. I think.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it gives you two different lines of dialogue, which will,
Oh, that's
if you remind
funny.
me when we get, if you remind me into the Spoilercast section, I'll run you through those. But yeah,
Yeah.
it does do that again. But yeah,
That's a nice
I did.
touch. But
Yeah,
once
I found it
again,
funny.
like you were saying, like there's a lot of things within the office building, the cubicle. There are projects here that it could have been great if there was some communication, if there was just any kind of communication.
It feels like this game lacked a creative director. And it felt like it lacked a visionary to lead the game. Like, for example, even with the other previous iterations of Life is Strange, from Michel Koch and Raoul Barbet to Webb Pickersgill and Chris Floyd to Zach Garris, all in director's chairs, it felt like someone had a visionary project on this kind of like oversight on everything. It's the same with, for example, The Expanse, which came from Telltale with, from Deck 9 and Telltale, which was with Stefan Frost. It felt like there was a director on the game. It felt like there was a creative director, a visionary on the project who's driving everything forward. I didn't feel that at any point because, for example, you see it in like all the interviews, the build-ups and stuff with Felicia Kwan and Jonathan Stauder. There's been leaks about different directors that are involved in this project. I heard whispers about different things as well. This, Stauder came into the game, into Deck 9, for example, after True Colors' development. There was no kind of like really big leading visionary for Life is Strange on this team. I don't really count Felicia Kwan because we'll come on to those issues when we get into the narrative and stuff. But it felt like that was the problem, which I think you kind of say, where it's like all these strands are there. If you combine them together, you could have made something which would have lifted the review scores, I think. But ultimately, there are other caveats. It doesn't escape the other issues, which we'll get onto in the spoiler cast, but it could have combined certain things. There were strands there that worked. There were a lot of strands that worked. Unfortunately, it felt like no one wanted to tie these together and actually deliver a cohesive story. And again, as well, it feels reflective of the stuff that was read in the IGN article about the allegations, which again, some of those things are right and wrong in my opinion. But it's like you could see, and I said this to you a couple of months ago on StrangeCast, I said, like, will they really deliver a game which is like cohesively seen, like as a studio team that has been working on it? And you see leaks, you see different comments, you see Reddit posts, all these kind of like little different things, which, you have to corroborate and feel like they're right or wrong or not. But it feels like a game that didn't have synergy on it. It didn't feel like people who were making something. It's like, for example, if I came on a podcast with you before and we had fought for like 20 minutes and I got really aggressive and stuff, do you think the podcast is going to be reflective of a good, healthy environment or something? Because you can see that whilst you try and put a facade on for people, they'll instantly, work you both out. And that's the thing with this game. Because it's like, as you said, there are strands there that work. There are strands that don't. So there's both good and bad. Even in itself, my Twitter reaction has been very funny because people have seen it in different ways. The tweeting is everything is laced with sarcasm. And it's like, and in the sense, I'm tweeting more about the negative parts because ultimately, those key negative parts break away the good parts of the game. So, for example, Tessa Rose Jackson's soundtrack for me is overshadowed because of the story, the plot points, all this stuff. The animations, for example, again, are overshadowed by clunky dialogue, the delivery, the way the pacing the story goes. Then, for example, the acting is really being held back because of dialogue that's been written, the story direction, etc. So all these things start coming into play with it. And that's like my ultimate issue with the entire game. Like there are good positives and bad things. I think like in itself,
Sure.
Kaladin has scope to be better. I think it's an interesting, it's very much, it is black. Let's be honest. It's a throwback to Blackwell Academy. Even if it's not, it feels like it's just like we need to play safe, and we're going back to that thing again. We've
Back
talked
to a
about it
school.
before. Yeah, we talked about it before. I've said it always. I felt like True Colors was like a Force Awakens moment for the series. It's very similar to the Abrams reboot of the Star Wars series, and it feels like this is now continuing that line of Life is Strange games on, if not even worse in some ways. But it's like, there were potential, but it felt quite clunky. It felt quite constrictive. It felt like I was walking through the same doors again and again to get to a certain point in Caledon. And again, it's like when I kept seeing go to the admin building, I was screaming because I was like, is the admin building the only place in this entire place? It's like this and the cafe. It's like, really? And it's like even do you remember they made it big out as well? They showed some of the parts of the library, which is in the admin building, and footage in the marketing, and even that's not that important. There's like one or two sequences where you go in there speaking to certain characters, and I was like, it's not that really important, if anything. So I was kind of like, I was just ultimately disappointed with that. And it's as a kind of like a review scope, it's just like there's a lot. Like if I was going to be like writing it outside of the stuff that we're talking in the spoilercast, it's like there would be a lot more negatives here than positives. Like this again, my positives truly would be on soundtrack, the acting, and
I would say the gameplay in and of itself, the time split. I think that was just so. It could have been so great if the puzzles were there. I think that was smooth. I liked the gameplay. I was excited if anytime that puzzle came up with the time split. I would write that in as a positive. It was just a wasted potential because of what we said. There's a lack of puzzles in this game. Like there is a lack.
Yeah, because like and I kind of I think my last comments were more so be on this split power and stuff. Like it did feel a little bit underwhelming where you're just doing this every time with Max's animation, and you just do it in random places. It wouldn't be like you'd rip open the entire universe. You'd be looking at a wall and you'd just do it. And it's like even in the locations I was talking about this before, it's like you'd go into one place and there's like 3 little hot spots where you'd go to them. They felt quite close to each other. And it's like maybe you were trying to hide Max from doing them. I know we had conversations before. I've had conversations before with people where it's like maybe to hide Max from splitting universes. But for example, in the Snapping Turtle, it's in front of the bathroom, and then for example, there's booths behind you, so someone would see you. Moses is sitting in one of them, for example. I know.
Yeah, it's in the entrance of the bathrooms.
Yeah, which I'm kind of like, hang on a minute. It's like, what's going on there? It's like, it's not a very discreet place. But I agree with you because like it in itself, I have issues with that because I don't think it's an evolution of Max's power, and we'll come into a conversation with that later. But if this was Alex Chen, for example, and that was the power where her empath power had evolved into pulsing and then splitting timelines, now we've got something very interesting. And as you said, combine it with some puzzles, some Abraxas cubes. For example, if you had to go to another portal and you find the Abraxas cube, you open it and it does different things, and you can pull something and you move it into the other universe. Here we go, and they allude to that in the game as well, even from the marketing, the early stuff, like the certain things being ripped out of different timelines into the other one. It's like, actually, maybe we're going to get into that, but no, nothing really ever delivered after that. It's like it was just a part of progressing the story forward. So ultimately, it felt a little bit bland at times, which is the problem with this. And I'm not even really wanting to hate this game or something, but the whispers that came in from the last lot of months ago really did start making sense. And when I played this game, I was like, oh boy. I was like, oh boy. And it's like when I started seeing it, I was like, this is not going to be good.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good transition to get into spoiler territory.
Okay, your final warning. This is Spoilercast. Do not come into the comments and start complaining.
And are we waiting to give our review scores till after the spoilers?
Yes. So you can jump ahead if you just want to see the review score. There will be a timestamp which will take you to the review score segment where we talk about the critical reception and our own review scores, including the StrangeCast review score. But you have been warned officially. And also, do not go into the comments looking for people to see reaction, because they are now free to talk whichever way they want about it. We are lifting spoiler bans on everything here. So Spoilercast, Adam. Here we go. So I think the best place to start, and I hope you agree with this, is Max and Chloe, because I think it's I think it's an elephant in the room, which we haven't talked about because we have been aware of it, guys, among many other things, like the conversations that have been happening, etc. We've been intentionally not talking about it because we wanted again to respect people from playing the Ultimate Edition, etc. I didn't agree with that practice, but I wanted people to play it. We've kind of like refrained from talking about it, and I know some people wanted to talk about it. Adam, my simple assessment, I'm gonna make two very
Mm,
quick points with this game, and especially the narrative, and on this point specifically, Max and Chloe. This game did two things which I was very fearful of. Was that one, they ripped away complete player agency. They destroyed
agreed.
every ounce of player agency. The ultimate agency was given in that game. I keep repeating it, but the ultimate agency was given in that first game, and it has been ripped to its core in this game. And especially with Max and Chloe, for example, because there's a very divisive 50% choice almost on that outcome. And then secondly, even with Max and Chloe and then the general narrative, but more so Max and Chloe, they handled that with as much finesse as a bull in a china shop. That's how much that entire storyline plays out, because I thought it was
Yeah.
absolutely atrocious. And I was sitting there behind the scenes listening to people and seeing the reaction, and it kept getting worse and worse by the week. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, you've dropped the biggest clanger in human history, because it's a mess. Because if you play this game and then you play the first game, it makes no sense, because it feels like these two
Mhm.
hate each other in this game. And then when you play the first game, you're like, hang on a minute, what? Ultimately, if you wanted to make that decision, if you really wanted to
Now,
do that decision,
which decision did you make? That
well, which point?
they grew apart or they died?
Yeah, okay. So let's get into this. So my decision was I said that they grew apart, but again, that
Okay.
was already like a knife in my heart as well, because like this doesn't really feel right.
I, of
Which one you go
course,
for?
had her die, but you say that they hated each other, right? But with mine, the canon ending, by the way, um, that Chloe dies, there is very little hate going on here. Like
Yeah.
it's actually looking at Chloe in a fondness, almost sort of way. So it's almost like they want you to have Chloe die. So you're saying in your playthrough, it was like comments of like hating each other?
So ultimately, what you just said is basically the game they wanted to make from that ending. They didn't want to appease this side of the ending. It's not necessarily they hate each other. The animosity level is like through the roof. It's like it
Really?
feels like the writing that they talk about, even the dialogue. It feels like they've never really met each other. It feels like they've never really had a connection or something. It feels quite
Wow.
bleak. It feels like in itself, because they try and tell this story that after 10 years, this kind of like feeling of um guilt that's come on them from what's happening in Arcadia Bay. All these like little caveats have like led them to breaking up. However, it doesn't make any sense in the story, because like it just comes across as like you almost I kind of like suggested to hate Chloe Price the way the game is told. It's like everything
Mm,
from Max's perspective is seen as negative, really massively negative. With Chloe, it's also seen negatively, but then slight tones of positivity between the two of them. Where it's like, I'm checking on you, Max. Just want to see how you
mm,
are at the end of the game, and da da da. It feels really
mm.
like poor for storytelling. That's how I took it, because I felt like when I was
Okay.
playing it, like there's like references to like Chloe sending like certain messages or making posts, and then Max saying certain comments that feel out of character. Sometimes she feels like she's like pitying the lost. That's what's happened with Chloe. Then other times she's just like moving forward, and just it
Mm,
comes out in like different points in the story where I'm like, this makes no sense. This is like who is writing this game? It's like, who is writing this room? Like, you basically have done what Michel Coe had said in those tweets when he tweeted about, and we covered as well, the biggest problem with Life is Strange Double Exposure is that Michel Coe said, for example, you'd sit down and have to write down the story. You'd be like, I need to sit down and think what's actually going to happen. Ultimately, it feels like these guys were just like, okay, I'm going to run a Euphoria and just wrote it. And it's like, when someone doesn't plan an essay and by the time you get to the end, it becomes really weak. It was like that strong introduction and stuff. You can try and like map out
yeah.
things, because you have like these hashed up ideas in your head, but ultimately there's no finesse with it. There's no delivery with it. So that's the issue with it. Because like basically, by the time you get to the opening part of the game and Safi's talking to you, and it goes really like dark, and it's like, we're about Chloe, and it's like, did you choose like, did she when I go with the ending, the choice that I did, it's like, can you keep Chloe alive? Or did you what's the pick now, was it? And the choice, so you pick your high school sweethearts, and it's like, we grew apart or she died or something like that. I think it's two of the options or something.
Oh,
I can't remember how.
first off, the first answer is like she's just a friend and we were high school sweethearts, and then the second
Yeah.
choice is we grew apart or she died.
Yeah. Which
I went with we were just friends and she died.
okay.
Because I was playing and we're gonna get into this. I was playing an asexual playthrough. I just wanted to see like the romance options here and how hefty they are. So I was playing through as an asexual
Mhm.
playthrough. So I said that me and Chloe were just friends, and she died because Pompidou. But yeah, I do have thoughts on that as we go forward into this.
They
But yeah,
like when I got to that point, even when I made that decision, it wasn't going to dictate everything in the game, but I could also really see instantly where someone would like basically put their Steam refund in if they bought this game at launch. Because by the time you get to that point in this game and you're making that decision, it feels again like player agency has been ripped out, and ultimately at that point, and I was tweeting about this as well, the narrative structure of this game collapses because basically, and we'll come on to the idea of like whether it's a sequel, whether it's not, because there's a lot of things I have with that. It feels like it wants to be a sequel sometimes, and other times it doesn't. Um, the narrative structure collapses because you don't respect both endings, because ultimately that's the big decision that happens in the game at the end of the first game, and then that dictates your max. So by the time I was playing the game as my max at that point, it felt like it wasn't really my max, it was just someone else's max, and I have no player agency with this. I even did the asexual playthrough as you did as well. I didn't really this is the first Life is Strange game where I didn't want a love interest, which again reflects the position that they put the story in. But ultimately, for me, this is a complete character assassination on Chloe Price, a complete character assassination on Chloe Price, and the bullet has hit her and gone straight through and hit Max. That's what I feel
yeah,
of like the entire like the way they've handled it, because you can't do what you've done. And I've said it before. Think about any sequels in history. For example, would Empire Strikes Back be considered one of the greatest films of all time? For example, if they had written Han Solo off script, it's like by the time you get to Empire Strikes Back, the film starts. Han Solo's not there. And basically, he's had a fight with Luke in the time that we don't see him, and he's flown off, and he's going to be told over voiceovers and just like recollections. That's the issue with the game, because basically, whatever people decide at the end of the first game, where Chloe and Max go, whether it's they stay platonic or whether they become something more and they go to a way, for example, you've destroyed the idea of these two characters trying to make peace with things, or even tell that game in itself is a story. That's the thing. It's a story. It can't be told off screen. It's a
yeah.
story in itself, and it comes visible. Emma does it in the comics, for example. In the comics, Emma does it where, when Max goes into another timeline, you see the old Chloe reflecting on things that their relationship's a bit frictional. But that Chloe, for example, by the time Max comes back to her, you basically get to the idea that we need to work together. It's going to be hard, but we can make it work. And in itself, there's some really wholesome moments. So, for example, Chloe builds, this entire place for them to live in when she gets back. After waiting years for Max to come back, she builds this entire place and becomes quite wholesome. In this, by the end of the game, I'm like, which one of you really despises Chloe Price? I'm like, who is it from Square Enix or Deck Knight? It's like, one of you really doesn't like her. And it's like, I have a good hunch where I know who doesn't like Chloe Price,
Yeah.
because it's very telling. Yeah, it's a very bad. For me, it's a character assassination, and I think more so, I can't even just say it on Chloe Price. I think it's a character assassination of Max
And they keep
Caulfield. I think it's
dragging Chloe throughout the game. It's like it's not like a one and done forget, but just like, what about the blue hair girl? What about the picture girl? What about this? I'm like, oh my god, dude, do you want us to forget about Chloe or not? Like, what do you want?
But that doesn't make sense though either, Adam, as well, because for example, they keep saying who's the blue head girl, this blue head girl, and then Max will say Chloe's name, for example. So she says it in itself. What is she, Lord Voldemort, Chloe Price? Is it like, do we not
Yeah,
mention? Is she he who must not be named? Is it she who must not be named? It
yeah.
makes no sense though, because it's like, why do you keep
She with the
referring to her as
bluest
the blue head?
hair.
But it's
Yeah,
but do you know what though as well? Like, and I'm going to go even further than that. It's like, for example, when they actually we'll come on to episode 5, because that's a different thing in itself.
yeah.
Like
That
the chapter 5, and when they do the Chloe Price thing, that in itself is a different issue. But yeah, ultimately, that's a huge problem with the game though, with the way that they handle Chloe Price, because that at that point, most people are just not going to like it, and in itself as well. We talked about it before. It's like this character is like a lot for a lot of people from LGBT backgrounds, where it's like they, for example, have like identified with this character. It's been like a big, like maybe it's their first option of seeing someone who's representative of them, etc., etc. And it's like you basically have like diluted them. So you basically turn them into a villain. It's like it's off brand, it's off script. It's almost very similar to Game of Thrones, for example, where Emilia Clarke's character Daenerys becomes a villain out of nowhere. It's like you basically just like you drop a load of like bombs on people, and it's like this doesn't work in the way that you have to justify the story. Even people's like theories outside, where they were like, Safi's a shapeshifter, she's obviously destroyed the relationship. Just do that. It makes more sense. Then people would accept that a bit more.
you know what's funny is that the whole Chloe Price thing is not my biggest issue with this game
Which
at all.
yeah, but
It's I have my statement written, but like honestly, when people would ask me privately, like in messages, and just saying like, oh man, like I can't believe it. Like I returned my copy and oh man, I can't because they don't have Chloe. I'm like, I'm telling you right now, the whole Chloe situation is not the the biggest issue of this game. It is an
Yeah,
issue. It is
yeah,
a very much an issue, but it is not my biggest issue. And I
no,
think that the whole this is what it comes down to. I just don't think that they could have afforded Ashley Birch. I think there could have been, I don't know, like some contract details that were in play. There's a lot of times in games where like the original actress or actor can't come back, and then they have to do something to right it around. Um, and I think that might have been the case. Rihanna DeVries was credited, so like she was Chloe in this. Did you not catch that? Rihanna DeVries was Chloe in this game.
yes, I did. And for me, it proves one of my theories, which I said, one of my feelings, if anything, opinions on one of the previous StrangeCasts. Hannah tells Max Caulfield does not work with Rihanna DeVries' Chloe Price because it felt like almost as well they were trying to imitate, like, be like, you need
Yes.
to put an Ashley Birch voice on. You're repeating all the lines from Life is Strange 1. Here you go, just like say it, but try and do it with Ashley Birch. And then they had the weird fading sound effect, almost try and make it sound like Ashley Birch. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
this doesn't work, man. I agree with you because, like, in itself, like, I think this is a major issue, but then also as well, this is like balled up into more issues as well. So I think like already you've pissed off a lot of people, and I'm marking this
Mhm.
as explicit anyway on Spotify as it is. So say as you will, but
Yay!
it's
I can do it.
well, don't go overboard because you still got
Oh,
YouTube.
I'm
But like
going overboard, dog. I'm going so unhinged.
but basically, you've annoyed an entire fan base in itself with just the Chloe Price storyline, but then it's amplified with the rest of the story, so it doesn't make sense with all the stuff that's
No.
happens. And it's like when Chloe Price comes up and I hear Ariana Freeze's like dialogue, I was like
Yeah.
laughing because I was like, "This is bad." I'm like, "It's so bad." It's like you're better off if you had the
Yeah.
thing with Ashley Birch, you had whatever else with it, just replace her, just cast her with a new actor who takes the reign of um of a older Chloe Price. People would accept it because they accepted Rihanna DeVries as a younger Chloe Price. They'd
Mhm.
accept, for example, a newer person as an older one, and I think you could do that as well. Ashley Birch has been away from this series for a long time, so I think like the affinity is gone.
Yeah.
But my God, man, I was like hearing her voice and when Rihanna DeVries was like delivering, when Rihanna was delivering some of the lines, I was like, no, this is not good. I'm like, who thought
But
this was a good idea?
that alone made people return this game, and I'm just like, honestly, man, like it gets worse from here. I'm glad you returned it. If that's what really turned you off from this game, you would have hated this game. Like the
Yeah.
way it all goes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you because like the story and when it unfolds beyond like this one issue, which I was like watching from the sidelines, I was like, right, I've heard about all this stuff here and there, and I'm like, I'm waiting, and then it's like bang, and it happens. I'm like, oh, I'm like, this is a big, big stinker of a story on top of already
Mhm.
butchering, for example, Chloe Price. But yeah, from my perspective, if anything, by the time I made the first choice, my interest had really waned in this game because I was like,
Oh
no,
god,
there's
yeah.
like this. It's like how can you really connect with like any character after that? It's like I'm missing. It's like as I said before, it's like breaking up Keenan and Kel. It's like you can't really have the dynamic duo combo if you're not having one of them. It's like you need reasons, you need explanations. That game in itself, for example, Max and Chloe breaking up, if you were going to do it, has to be, for example, be done on a screen. It has to be an actual story in itself. It has to be a game in itself. You can't just do it off screen. It doesn't work. Um, and what I don't like as well, Adam, before we kind of move on and move further into the story, it's like I don't like the fact that people are already trivializing this argument down to like the Last of Us 2 levels, where it's like, well, you don't like this game because Joel died, and it's like because Chloe isn't in the game. No, it's not. It's not just
No.
because Chloe's not in the game. It's there's huge amounts of it. Like I've seen some of the reviews calls, and I'm like, if you think this is masterful storytelling, I'm Stephen King. I'm going to change my name tomorrow. Go down to whichever place it is here in the UK and call myself Stephen King, and I'm gonna put myself as a name and get rid of Adnan Riaz. He's not going to exist anymore because apparently these people must be getting their degrees, writing degrees from McDonald's Happy Meals. That's where it's like coming from. Like, truthfully, I don't go
I
after
know.
people viciously, but like honestly, this is the most atrocious writing I've ever seen in a game. Like in modern
Mhm.
games, if anything, I don't play a lot of games. I'll be very clear with that because I've seen people
I do.
taking little things with me, but
Yeah.
I don't play a lot of modern games now because I think they're very poor in quality. Like they're nowhere near the scratch where we were. The visionaries, the creatives and stuff, they're all gone, for example. And it's like, for example, and I've said this before, go and read Zach Garris' statement in the IGN article. Go and read it. It's very interesting when he talks about waning in influences on the writing team, isn't it? Very reflective. But no, Zach Garris is the monster. Not the Zach Garris who was considered a genius within Deck 9 among many people. No. The guy who was really respected. No, he's not the issue. But apparently, Adam, as you said before, he was towing a line in the office and stuff when he was in that piece. But no, he's the problem. He was always only towing the line. And also as well, if his behavior is out of line, go and work in a journalism newsroom, because I've worked in it, and you'll see some screaming and shouting contests where people never take things out personally. Or, for example, go and work in a kitchen where the chef will say something to you when you mess something up, because it's a high stakes, high demand thing. You make compromises, you work with people. You might not see eye to eye with everyone, but there's a way of doing it. Ultimate Adam, we'll move this forward because I think obviously Chloe Price and Max is an issue in itself, and I think we'll come back to it later in some parts of the conversation. But it's ultimately a massive dump of the situation. And then on top of that as well, Mallory Littleton needs to go and delete her tweets because you're like, we miss Chloe, we miss this. Yeah, you probably, look at the difference between the comments you made and what Michelle said in those tweets. It's like, you have not read the room, and it's like those tweets are going to age badly because it shows of this game. Adam, where should we jump into other parts of this game? I think I'm going to let you take any points, or is this statement time?
It's statement time, because when I say that Chloe isn't my biggest issue, it is still an issue. It's in my top 3 issues, but my number 1 issue. I want to just go straight into it, and then we can talk everything in between. All right.
Okay.
So it's only a page long, only 1 page. Okay. I almost rambled, but I wanted to write it down just because I wanted to collect my thoughts, and this is how I just want to say things. So first and foremost, the writers and the developers of Life is Strange Double Exposure are people, human beings, brothers and sisters under the sun. We may disagree with their decisions on a creative level, but that does not give you the justification to threaten their lives or to breach their privacy by spreading personal information for others to harm them. If you are one of these people that believe that the correct course of action to communicate your distaste for the games is to send threats of harm or to dox, then I will ask you to unsubscribe from our channels, and I would like to give you a formal invitation to lick my taint. Are we clear? Cool. My taint's right here. You can lick it. That being said, so I'm glad you're not censoring this, because I rewrote that line so many times. Like, no, and it's not going to let me say that. No, let's say, no, really said that. Lick my taint. That being said, I do not agree on a creative level, not on a personal level, on a creative level, of the interpretation of the storm itself with Double Exposure. The storm is an impending dread of consequences of one's actions, a consequence where a person has caused harm, and no matter how many band-aids you've put onto the wound, the storm is still coming. I had originally written notes that the storm moments of each game, but in case this might be your first Life is Strange game and you only played the first game and then this, I don't want to spoil the endings and highly recommend you play the older titles, because storm moments are... They represent what Life is Strange is. But in comparison to the first game, we're just going to talk about the first Life is Strange game because this is StrangeCast. You probably have played the first game. In comparison to the first game, since you most likely have played the first game and this is acting as a direct sequel, the direction of Double Exposure's Storm is a letdown. The storm moment in Life is Strange is Max trying to uplift Chloe, and her impending death is a result of choices made out of the trauma of losing her father being Chloe's father. Chloe's the victim of a collapsing home life, and Max has a grown feeling of guilt for not being present in her friend for her friend in the time of need. The storm is here as a growth of guilt, the attempts of fixing trauma with the lack of professional help, and the rejection of loss having consequences. Life is Strange is about acceptance of what loss will do to a person, which is why Michelle Coe did not have Max cry at the funeral scene, because the entire point of the game is learning to accept the loss of a loved one and not let it lead to poor or harmful decisions. Max has become stronger emotionally at this point. Double Exposure storm moment. This is my biggest issue. When we boil it down, was a Nepo baby didn't get her book deal. That's what it boils down to. Safi's villain era, and that's what the storm has become in this game. A villain moment has started because mommy didn't let her professionally publish her little book. I was waiting for a revelation that maybe Maya didn't actually kill herself, or maybe Lucas did something illegally traumatic to Maya and Safi had the evidence to put him behind bars. No. Lucas was a scumbag, for sure, for stealing Maya's work after she committed suicide. That is fact. But the Storm being a villain origin story for Safi is an incorrect use of the Storm. And let me remind you that the villain origin story is rounded out because the daughter of a president of the university has been told no by one publisher. So instead of looking at for solutions and saying like, oh, maybe another publisher can do this, maybe someone else, maybe I can look for solutions. No, this is my villain right now. This is my villain origin story. She has a temper tantrum and becomes Dr. Doom. We will be discussing the disappointment of no Chloe in the game, which we already did. Thank you, Adnan. But in my opinion, the Storm moment in Double Exposure and the interpretation of what the Storm means is my biggest gripe with the game. Also, Square Enix can also lick my taint for putting an ad in the game for cat content. Done. Fuck you.
Perfect. Well, you put up that exactly the way I wanted to. in every yeah, a lot of it, because I think like in itself as well, what you're talking about the Storm is the ironic argument that I make about the fact that this game doesn't know when it wants to be a sequel and when it doesn't want to be a sequel. So it's like, for example, that entire point of the Storm is almost like someone who hasn't played the first Life is Strange and understand why a storm is being created. It's like the butterfly, for example, turns up in the chapter 5, and it's like this little like weird nightmare sequence. It's like the Storm is a repercussion. They talk about this entire game, chaos theory, among many other things. You know, a storm isn't just representative of like, you know, what Safi can have. It's representative of what every action has consequences. You keep putting in the top left corner of the screen, people, for like, you know, at Square Enix for this game. You know, that's the effect of it. We're creating chaos theory. We're creating this. It has no significance to Safi. It has no significance to it. It just make Safi's a comet or something. Make it something like all the theories that people do. Even Dream Prism, Alex was saying to me, he's like, yeah, all these ideas about comets and you know, etc. I'm like, your theories sound great. This game ain't going to be delivering any of them. It's like you're thinking way far out the box. It's like these guys haven't even thought anywhere remotely to that, and that's the problem with Life is Strange Double Exposure. It's like it basically cannot understand that point. This is what insults me more about this game. It wants to be a sequel when it needs to tell it for story purposes, but when it doesn't, it tries to present itself as a soft reboot, and it deeply insults me. So that's the issue I have completely with what you're saying there in terms of, for example, the Storm. Because, like, for example, when Max like rewinds time in the game and she goes into the photo, when did she get her rewind power back? I thought it was gone. You were saying it's gone. Then on top of that, for example, if you get into the Alderman chapter where she gets caught and she rewinds time, it's never explained. You can't just use it for plot devices. You are insulting people's intelligence, and you are insulting my intelligence, because the entire point is my character hasn't learned anything. I said this repeatedly in every conversation. I said in a tweet, I don't try to be professional, but it's actually aggravating me, because it's like the simple fact
Unhinged is coming.
But how can you not be unhinged with this game, though? Because it's insulting you.
When we got to the end, and I saw the end credits, and I was just trying to say, like, there's no way that they interpreted the Storm moment to be a Nepo baby didn't get a little book deal. And I'm like, are you insane? I understand the whole, like, she's traumatized because her friend had committed suicide. I understand that, but it boiled down to she couldn't publish her thoughts. Like, she couldn't publish her thoughts, and therefore one publisher said no. Like, she could have put it on Tumblr for all I care. She could have started a YouTube channel. I don't know. But like, she has a temper tantrum and she becomes the villain of the story because, oh, mommy said no. And then like, who's the teacher that we revealed actually said no, not Lucas, the other teacher. Gwen, thank you. When Gwen said no to, because there's incendiary comments, I was like, and then we kept repeating that word, incendiary. What's incendiary? Oh, the incendiary comments. But we don't know what the incendiary comments were. You can't just write in there's incendiary comments and just not talk about it. What's incendiary about it? Like, what are you talking about? Like, we're going into like writers' rooms here. Like when I see something that's written on screen, in music, anything, it says everything about your personality, what you think is traumatic, what your life experience was, and
Yeah.
your life of a writer is just that. Like so like the biggest trauma in your life is that your writing isn't published. That's your biggest trauma. There's got to be more that you got to break down as a person.
It's reflective of the people who are doing it. So, for example, here's a famous example, which is Steven Spielberg. Every film, the father figure is like most of his films, the earlier stuff, the father figure is usually
Yes.
missing because it's reflective of Spielberg's upbringing. He does it very simple and nuanced because he's showing you who he is as a writer, as a director, and it's telling a story about that missing portion of his life. You know, it's like the same thing, for example, where someone who goes to war loses limbs, they feel a phantom pain, they always feel that limb that's not there, they feel the repercussions of it. Then, for example, this game, it's like the dark room situations, when she's in there and the trauma doesn't show any of this, and it's
Doesn't
like
show
it makes
any sort of
nothing
trauma to it.
Max doesn't show anything. So basically, the problem is if you're going to bring back Max Caulfield, as they do, you need to, one, show that she has continuity links with her original game, and also what she's been doing in the 10 years. It is not down for the gamer to believe that, for example, Max Caulfield has got over her trauma in the dark rooms and stuff. It needs to be explained this. It needs to be showed ticks. Like, for example, I've been studying counseling course for like the better part of like half a year now, if not longer. People don't get over trauma. They do not get over trauma. I've said this before. It's like almost saying to an SA victim, oh yeah, it's been 10 years. You're going to get over it. Do you really think someone is going to get over trauma like that? This girl, for example, in the first game is drugged. She sees her friend get shot. Then she is physically and mentally
at a very young
tortured.
age.
At a young age.
At a young age,
she would be the great example of someone who Freud would be like, okay, let's talk Max Caulfield because the trauma that you're feeling is linked to your childhood and we're going to get into it. It's like,
so since you're studying psychology, we're talking about how writers are interpret. When you hear my writing and you hear my stories, what do you interpret from me, Adnan?
well, it says a lot. That's why I'm not going to say anything to you. I'm like, when you say it to me, it's like, I know where. It's like, we'll need to get you on the couch with a sofa and I'm going to set the end and practice psychodynamic theory at that point. No, that's the problem because, for example, Adam, I said this on another YouTube channel. We got this now, the physical copy. I wanted the physical copy anyway. This is why I didn't want to buy the Ultimate Edition and many other reasons. This is not just Square Enix's problem. This is every modern publisher's problem. They do very generic, boring covers, yeah?
Yes.
In itself,
understood.
Here, all this content I said before, nothing links to the first Life is Strange. Obviously, in itself, I'm not stupid with marketing. They're doing it to attract new audiences. However, there's nothing here. In itself, Metal Gear Solid, before it's like Snake is back, the legend returns, etc. There's always something that links people back to the game. Konami is a Japanese publisher. This is a Japanese publisher. No, it's got European divisions, etc. But not the point. The marketing is making it blank. It's almost treating it like a soft reboot because it wants to be a soft reboot of the franchise. I've said this before time and time again in the podcast. It is trying to come across as a soft reboot, but then it decides to use sequel points because it's trying to treat itself as a sequel to new fans. Ultimately, this game, let me show you as well. This is what Michel Coe saw when the Xbox Game Showcase happened. Do you remember the tweets he put? He's like, I didn't recognize her at first. That's very hard to recognize when you move away Life is Strange double exposure from the name, yeah? Because it's like, actually, when you look at her, she doesn't look like Max. Emma Vicelli, for example, when she did the comics and aged Max a little bit, she's like, she still needs distinguishing features to show she's Max. So she wears a dream catcher. She has a blue butterfly tattoo. They did it intentionally to show it. I get it. She's older. She might be changed, but she doesn't look like Max. And this is not me, for example, doing that same conversation because that's a boring conversation. They've done it differently. It's new character models. That's the issue with this game. And ultimately, my review is this is the game double exposure. It's not Life is Strange. It is nothing to do with Life is Strange. This, for example, is double exposure of the game. And then when it wants to become a sequel, it does that. And it's like Life is Strange double exposure. It will show you both of them. That's the thing. And for the audio listeners, I'm just showing the cover. If anything, I should have like really explained this. That's the issue with this game, and it irks me. So, for example, they could easily have woven in the Jefferson storyline, easily woven in. When, like, I like the fact, for example, when you're in an apartment and you have the, it's like Arrested Development on the door of it. It doesn't say dark room, for example, but it's like she goes into this room and she shows no sense of trauma, no sense of dread, nothing like that. Even, for example, you could have done like a flickering moment where you have the other Max, you have Safi pretending that, and it's Jefferson, for example, as a model. It could have been like and it's like, he is not her physical dementor. Like, he would become her dementor in certain ways. You need to explain that trauma is something she's going to come over because she does it. Because the issue I have in the game as well, and I've moved away from your tornado thing, but we'll come on to that as well because that's a whole
Yeah,
different
no,
thing.
I just jumped into that because like that's my biggest issue. But like, let's talk about that. Is this a direct sequel? Is this a soft reboot? Is this what is this game?
It's a mess. It doesn't know what it wants
Yeah,
to be. It doesn't. That's the problem. It's like no one sat down and said, "Are we making a direct sequel or are we doing a reboot?" And it's like they
yeah,
try and borrow certain elements that don't work. So, for example, you get to the point where
yeah,
it's like she's like, "Oh, Lucas reminds me a bit of like Jefferson. He's got like this hot vibe kind of thing that I can see why students like him." And it's like you don't reflect on it. You could easily, for example, I think there's a very small sequence in the game where it's like a choice where you leave a mental health card.
mm,
She should have had a sequence in this game where she goes and sees the Kaladin therapist and she talks about her problems because that is a direct sequel because you acknowledge
mm,
the events of the first Life is Strange. This character shows nothing. It shows nothing in terms of certain parts of the story, Chloe's story, nothing in terms of the events of Arcadia Bay, nothing with Jefferson. And it's like, even for example, when they get into that weird dream sequence at the end, they try and do this thing where it's like Lucas pretends to be the new Jefferson kind of thing, where it's like his
yeah,
audio's kind of like overlapping. You have that weird bowling ball that's trying to be Jefferson. It's like obviously clearly they didn't want to make the asset for Jefferson. And then it's like at the end of that game, they kind of explain, for example, why she still loves photography. So it's like, oh, I felt like really hollow because of what happened, but photography saved my life. It's like, but we need more than that. It's like, for example,
yeah,
you don't explain why she uses digital cameras instead of Polaroids more. The Polaroid is only done because of marketing, because it's in the game, but she still uses a digital camera, for example. And then on top of that, why does she not play music? Why does she not play music
she
anymore?
doesn't play anything, dude.
And
Yeah,
also, that is the biggest clang. Hannah Tell, you have the motion capture equipment. They've done it in The Last of Us. They've done it in Beyond Two Souls.
yep.
Oh my God. That
And
would be
Hannah
one.
Tell is a published musician. She's on Spotify. She writes music, dude. She's a talented musician. Wasted.
Oh my God. Imagine if she picked up the guitar and she like played Obstacles or Santa Monica Dreams or Spanish, anything. Like, what is going on? But again, it doesn't know when it wants to be a sequel, when it's not. And then, for
Yeah,
example, here's a funny one, Adam. Do you notice it now when Hannah Tell does the reaction video to the opening bathroom sequence before this game came out? Because obviously
yeah.
they're trying to get people to know what happens at the end of the game. And it still makes no sense because you're replacing Safi with, with Chloe and trying to tell.
By the
I
way, dude,
don't.
since we're in spoiler territory and we're talking about the ending, dog, I was laughing my head off because, like, I texted you while I was on the treadmill. I almost laughed myself off the treadmill when I was like, I sent you the message like, dog, they explain why it's called double exposure, and I'm losing my shit, dude. I am losing my shit. And since we're in spoiler territory, you've played this game, you've played it through. Safi is not only shapeshifting, but she's possessing people. I gotta take a picture of them. But wait, if I just use double exposure, she's a spirit now. And I'm like, so we're stealing beyond two souls right now. We're stealing that life has souls, and if you take a picture of them and then use double exposure, go, oh, thank you, Max, for taking a Polaroid of me and using double. How is using double exposure on a Polaroid? How are you doing that? Like, I know it's possible, but it's like on the newfangled ones. I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? I
I saw
like
someone point out on the Polaroid as well that the number counter doesn't change.
the number
Like,
counter doesn't change, dude. Yeah, no, that's product placement right there. Like the new,
Yeah,
she would not have the Generation 2. I got my wife the Generation 2, and it's a toy. It's straight up a
yeah.
toy. Like Max is a professional photographer. She would have like her old Polaroid. She would keep that handy, dude.
I see what they're doing though, because do you remember that leak of the aperture one where it says that Max's power goes through the camera lens?
Yes,
I feel like
yes, yes.
I feel like this is a diluted version of that. That's why it's kind of trying to explain, for example, why she can do the double exposure thing. But it makes no sense. That in itself as well, when you say that, that is also another systemic problem in this game. Because, for example, let me just go unhinged here. You built your entire marketing around a murder mystery, and we
Yep.
don't solve the fucking murder mystery.
What do
Do
you mean?
we?
Yeah.
We don't know who shot Safi.
Oh
Is that
yeah.
explained ever? Like, it's
Wait,
never
yeah, now
explained.
wait.
It's never explained because they
Cuz
change things, don't they? Because she goes back into the Polaroid and she doesn't shoot her. So who shoots Safi?
By the way, dude, oh my god, when Max had the gun and was to the storm, I straight up thought, I was laughing like, dude, she's gonna shoot the storm. She's gonna wait. I was waiting for it, and then she threw the gun. I was like, ah.
My response to him when was when he sent me that, I was like, yeah, she should have shot the storm. It would have been more funny at that
And
point. At
anyway,
least it would have given
I started
something.
blasting. I was about to lose
They don't
it.
explain it, dude. They don't explain who
Yeah,
killed
it's
her.
true. Like,
This is the problem with the game. There's plot points everywhere within this game.
yeah, it's, you know what? That's the other thing though. Like, it was explained because it was Photoshop. It was a deep fake.
By the way, that photo is awful on the screen. Oh my God almighty.
It's the
Like, who is-
deepfake. I'm like, a deepfake directly from the camera? What are you talking about? By the way, I love when Moses said, like, oh, look, she took another picture. It's like, why'd you say it like?
It's like to the end of the episode as well, like the fifth one, where she's like, "You love Safi? Is it because she drives a Porsche?" And it's like, "Oh my fucking God!" It's like, yeah, Chloe Price, right? Chloe Price sounds like that, doesn't she? It's like,
Yeah.
holy! It's like, who is making this game?
There
Who
is a
writing-
lot to break down this spoiler.
Like
Yeah.
the power, like, but in that sense, when I'm talking to you now, it's like the entire point of like they don't explain who kills her. So it's like she goes back into the photo with her time power jump, and it's like there's no explanation of who kills Safi. Like no one explains that ever because it goes off in a complete tangent. But the issues still remain. So, for example, my Max Caulfield hasn't learned any repercussions from the idea of the storm. The storm you just talked about, that entire monologue. She created a storm by making decisions that had a recurring effect, a butterfly effect. Instead, she jumps into the photo, gets thrown out,
Yes.
then jumps back in the photo again, and then gets a
Yes.
nosebleed, jumps back in. Has this character not learned anything? And it's
The
an
other thing-
older version of the character.
The other thing that wasn't explained, not only just the murder, and I know you said text, by the way. And yeah, it's dry out. It's winter. I gotta keep my lips moisturized. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Go lick a body part of mine. But what wasn't explained was Alderman's ghost, and that Alderman
Oh my
didn't really
God.
exist. And like we
Yeah.
got explained for that in a text message. I'm like, wait,
Right.
so like, yeah.
Before you start with that, this game
Mm.
really sent me over the edge when that sequence happened with Alderman in her house, in her
Bro,
apartment.
he went like 0 to 100 in like 3 flat seconds. Like,
Yeah.
goddamn.
And on top of that as well, what infuriated more was the fact that she like starts panicking at the beginning. She's like, "Oh no, he can't see the photo. He can't see the photo." So then she runs behind the counter, picks up a
Yep.
cup of coffee, and leaves the photo. I'm like, "Hang on a minute, you were frantically It's a photo. It's not like a fruit bowl. It's a photo. Knock it off the edge, etc." Wait till Alderman sees it, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "No." I'm like, "You did not do that for a narrative purpose." I'm like, "I'm so I'm like, that is insulting everyone's intelligence." Do you know what I said before that these people got their degrees from McDonald's Happy Meals? That's what this game is like. It's like
Yeah.
no one writes plot points like that. That is horrific writing, and that's one issue within the systemic issue of this game. But on the
Yes.
point what you're saying with Alderman, I'll let you continue because like that in itself is like,
God dang, man. He just like, the only person I've ever seen go unhinged that fast is when I look in the mirror. Like that's just
yeah,
completely. Alderman, the episode before, he's like, Max, please take my card. If you have anything. By the way, I also said to Alderman, like, I will let you know if anything happens. And then Moses was just like, how dare you say that? I'm like, I'm just saying that just to get him off my trail. What are you talking about? I'm not going to turn you in, Moses. By the way, Moses, favorite character. I loved Moses. Moses as a character, great. I love the actor. I love his sweetheartness. I love Moses. Give him a big old hug.
do you know?
I'll smooch him.
Do you know Dak Nine have said that he's autistic? So someone messaged them.
Oh,
So someone messaged. I noticed it with the hand movement and the way he doesn't look at people. But
yeah.
it's like there's certain things with that. So basically, someone messaged them and asked them it over DMs, and then they reveal that it's like, yeah, Moses is actually written as an autistic character. It's like that's really interesting. It's also you could have shown it to other people because, for example,
Yes.
I'll pick it up and I've seen it, and when I mention it to you, you'll see it. But other people might not. So it's like, why don't you actually give some visible lines? And then also as well, your main character is also on the spectrum because it is alluded in the
Yeah.
first Life is Strange game, and you destroy all her agency with that. There was a There was a thing where with Serena, when I did my interview, you can go and watch it on the channel, who's Max's mocap actor in Life is Strange 1, had to perfect a certain walk because that's the first thing
Yes.
I remember as someone who was once undiagnosed, watching Max walk in the hallway. And I once like laughed because like Max walks really funnily. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, I know why you're laughing now, because it's like you probably
Yes.
walk like that as well. And it's like your
Yes.
character's already autistic, but no, this is the same with the Doc Martens, for example. The Doc Martens are there, but we're not going to explain it to people because, you know, marketing purposes, and we need to make sure people don't buy this game for different reasons.
Well,
They
again, when
start-
you were asking me if they're going to put a trans character in this game, like they're not brave enough. Square Enix is not brave enough. They don't have the balls to do it, dude.
do they even
And
like really allude to it in the game?
yeah, they do. They do. But like they never say it because of Daddy 10 cents. They just have to like perform. So like that the whole business side, they can't reveal what things are because of marketing. I can forgive that because shareholders are bitches and they don't know what they want anyway. So
Does Tencent even
screw
have a
'em.
stake in Square Enix?
I thought they did, didn't they? Don't they?
Don't know.
No. I said like I thought Tencent
Either
has
way, if anything, Square
they
does
have a
have markets.
bro. I bet you anything Tencent has a stake in my refrigerator, dog. Like so, like I don't know. They probably do.
Well, they market anyway to across the world, Square. So it's like they're
Yeah.
obviously doing it with that kind of thing. It's like with when they're talking about it, you know, with the allegation that they don't like it being a gay game, for example, the IGN piece. It's like all the relationships in the game are like surface value. It's like it's not front and center of the game. Because for example, if Max and Chloe were in the front of the game,
Okay.
it's like then you'd have. Oh,
I was gonna say like we'll move on to that next, but
actually, Adam, before we come on to the relationships, let's go back to Alderman because it's actually
yeah, that's what I mean.
infuriating
Before we
that.
go to that, let's finish our Alderman talk.
Alderman.
Mm.
I don't know how people feel about this. This could have been a really interesting plot line. And also as well, like that, as he said, he goes from 1 to 100 30 minutes later because it feels like they want to write him out of the game at this point.
Yeah.
And
Once
they
again,
don't.
like I was like, here's your card. And then he goes like, freeze, like gun on you, everything. I was like, what the fuck, dude? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
But also as well, when we get to the peak area where Safi died and they have the flowers and stuff,
Yeah.
and you see the other aldermen, they don't explain, for example, why that timeline's a day behind. That is never explained for me.
They
Unless
also
I'm
don't
going
explain the
crazy.
flowers. Like, why the flowers? Like why flowers? Like, what
In
is
the
that?
snow. It's like it's the only part that the flowers are grown. Nothing else. No explanation for that ever. No connection with it.
Yeah.
No. And it's like,
Versus in the first Life is Strange game, we get the snow in October, and like that's strange. We have some time with that. Like that is weird. The the eclipse. What is that? Like, and it's all because time and space is being fucked with. And like but the flowers, like, no, that's weird. Anyways, Alderman, you're here. It's like, what? No, you can't
But
just.
also, how did you try and save him?
Oh, yes, I did.
Have you seen what happens to the other option if you don't save him?
No, I don't.
So if you try and get yourself free, Max punches him. There is a clip, go and watch it after this. Max punches him if she tries to get away. Do you know it says the option where it's like save Alderman or free yourself?
And she
Max
punches
will punch him. And I'm like, that is not Max Caulfield. Did she become Muhammad Ali overnight? It makes no sense. This isn't Max Caulfield in any way, shape, characterization. It is not her until the moments where it's like, I want to be a sequel to the first Life is Strange. Everything else feels weird though. She punches the dude. He's a cop. You see like Moses in the back, because obviously when you do the option we had, Moses gets the slit in his like here in his like, hair. And it's like that's it. But it's like this guy just disappears out of the universe. And then the entire story is just relegated to like text messages explain that he's like a manifestation, an idea like of what the kid was meant to be or what they wanted him to be. It's like I can't still try and figure what it is.
Again, when I say this game is a peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich, that mayonnaise could have been like almost like Murdered Soul Suspect. Also not a good game. Also a Square Enix game. And also Hannah Tells in that. Yes. But there could have been like a suspect, Murdered Soul Suspect, where there is souls in this game. There are supernatural things. There could have been a good supernatural murder mystery to this that didn't involve Max. And the story with Max could have been interesting if we didn't have Murdered Soul Suspect. If Hannah Tell could just leave that franchise altogether.
Yeah.
There are elements in this game that when they are combined, what the fuck is happening here, dude? Because
I
like
don't
with
know.
Max punching him, what is that? With this dude being a ghost of who he could have been, that could have been elaborated on, but it never does. Like we just
It,
never see the guy.
Someone responded to me on Twitter saying it's like a Twin Peaks X Files story kind of like angle that with Alderman. And it's like actually it is. It's like why is this not the continuity link? Why is this not, for example, why is he not the like the element of the murder mystery of killing Safi or something? You could easily
Yeah.
do this because he is like a soul. He's like a different entity, whatever he is. I can't even explain to people because it's like I don't understand this game. I don't understand
Yeah,
plot points for me to explain to you.
why did we waste Alderman? Alderman was wasted. Why did we waste Lucas? Lucas was also just a dud. Like he
Oh
wasn't
God
just a
Almighty.
red herring. He was just a dud. Like what was happening with that? With Gwen. Gwen is also a dud. Like what's
Great
happening with
character.
great character. But again,
Yeah.
like all three of these characters that I named, Alderman, Lucas, and Gwen, all of these are great characters that we could have elaborated on, but
Yeah.
just duds. Just like
Yeah.
you lit the fire and no explosion of character. It just kind of like, yeah, Lucas is just kind of a scumbag. Like he's just the Ben
Well,
Shapiro of this world.
no, but the problem is though as well, adventurous. But the problem is he has no redeeming quality. So it's like basically this shows a bad
Like
sign
Ben
up for
Shapiro.
writers because it's like you need to write a reason for him to redeem himself by the end of the game, but they don't
Yeah.
do that. They just make him that person where it's like he's just no, he has no redemption qualities. He has no
No.
arc. He has nothing to prove himself.
He does have a redemption. He does. Max. Whew.
Oh
Busy,
my
busy.
God. I feel so sorry for his actor, Mark Howard Robinson. He's like such a sweetheart, and I can't believe they gave him the worst character ever.
When I tweeted that, I was like, Life is Strange double exposure, no context. And it's just Lucas closing his case, locking it up. I was telling Liz, like, hey, that's the move I make before you see how much I spent at Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
Liz.
It's so bad, man. It's just so like other things. It's like even for example, that entire even that point with like Alderman when he catches and you rewind time, like they never explained that, but apparently her powers went never explained. But no, there'll be some person at the internet being like trying to fill in the gaps, being like, oh, actually they did this. No, they didn't explain it. They never explained it. It's like when he pulls it's like when he said to me as well, he goes from 1 to 100 and he comes in there, it's like, and a telescope turned up this room. I was like, actually, the funny part you mentioned that now, Vince, because nothing else like that really ever happens in this game again. And it's like, I was like, nothing else really happens. I was like, is that another?
What happened to the telescope, Max? What? The telescope? Why are you acting like this, dude? Why are you acting accusatory? It's like, Moses was here and you weren't here, and then a telescope, and then you were there, brother. I was like, what are you talking about, dude? How would a actual police officer accuse somebody of a magical telescope? Max wasn't there, so obviously she's a magician.
But again, that's the other issue. It's like, when does he get a sixth sense for Max's power and like arcade? He's the only person that mentions really Arcadia Bay within like a good context point. Like, I know Shapeshifter Safi does it later, but it's like when it's like on that, Alderman starts digging into Arcadia Bay and the history. Again, it's now we'll accept the original game from Don't Nod, and now we'll embrace the sequel for sequel purposes. But then it's like, oh, okay, we're going to rewrite the story again here. And it's like, what is happening here? It's like, when did he just get a sixth sense for this? It's like, even if you read the events of Arcadia Bay and the timeline I'm in, it works technically speaking because you destroy the town. How does he know she has powers? It never alludes to that. Not even his other copycat. When he gets like yanked into the portal, I was like laughing so much. I was like, has this dude just been written out of the game after chapter 3 with nothing else? No one
like
questions it.
When you texted me that and you said that, I was like, yeah, he just disappears. Like that's the end of Alderman. No more Alderman. Just no more. He gets sucked into the portal and it's like, that's it. Bye-bye, Alderman.
Has Yasmin not asked questions? She's like hired him as a private detective.
Exactly. Yasmin's not. By the way, why was Yasmin fired from the university at the end? Like, what did she do? What did she do? Like, the board. Okay, that's a quick side quest, and then we have to talk about the romance options here. Okay, but quick side quest here. She's in the hospital because her arm is shot, and then the board asks her to step. I'm like, what did Yasmin do? Like, why did the board ask her? Because of her daughter? Is that why? Do you know?
my
Like, because
silence is deafening on this game.
because like her daughter
I
is a psychopath baby.
I think it also goes into the other. I think it's meant to try and honestly, I don't know if you guys can clear this up, play a clip. Because honestly, I was checked
Please
out of this
say
game
in the
at this point.
comments because I'm like,
I
why was she asked to step down? What did she do?
I think it might be trying to connect with the other plot lines, the Maya Okada stuff, and like the Lucas and Gwen situation. I mean, it's trying to like allude to everything that's happened at Caledon University, that she's like kind of like ousted from her position. But again, I don't really know, because at that point I'm like ringing her up and like, is your shoulder all right? And she's like, yeah, and I've been ousted from the college. And I'm like, why? And she's like, put the phone down. I'm like,
Yeah, she's like, oh, it seems that I'm overdue to take my meds. There's no
Yeah.
goodbye. She's like, I'm overdue for my meds.
Jesus Christ almighty. Who wrote this game?
Huh? Like, I've been fired. I gotta take my meds.
Oh my god.
And then Maya Okada, of course, was Rachel Amber in this game, and of course, Lucas tried to be Jed. I'm gonna say Jederson. And then
you know what? Like, I've seen other people. I thought I was annoyed at first when they brought the Maya Okada storyline in, because I was like, why are we even talking about Maya Okada? It's like there's already enough going on in this game that you've unconnected storylines and plot lines that we don't need a Rachel Amber 2.0. However, I thought that there could have been, again, it's like, as you said, there's potential in certain areas. So, for example, they could easily have done. I thought, for example, that Maya Okada might have been Safi in itself, because if you look at their pictures in one of the things you can pick up, they look quite similar. So I thought they might kind of connect Maya with Vin Lang. So, for example, that's why Vin Lang slept with Safi, or like had some kind of like intimate relationship, but it's actually Maya Okada is actually Safi. No, nothing like that. Maya Okada is just a student, and they're trying to explain that.
Yeah,
I don't get it. It's like, as you said, it's like a Rachel Amber plotline just shoehorned into the game, and it's like
Rachel and again, like when we were first talking about this game and you had these plot points all together, I'm like, you're talking about a narrative writer like Michelle Coe, like Hideo Kojima. I'm like, these are not these people, dude. These are not these people. And then, like, again, Maya Okada, if I was writing this, that would have been a greater plot line. I would have made Maya the shapeshifter, like she faked her own death, you know?
Or do
let's
do the souls things, as you said. She's a soul from another universe.
She's a soul. She's a shapeshifter.
She's a Safi's manifestation of the kind of version who didn't get the book, for example, and she comes into this timeline for retribution. There we go. We start making story plot lines. And fully enough, when you said that as well,
this all could have been solved if there was a creative director. If there was a clear creative direction, this game would have been. This game could have been a fantastic game. I would have enjoyed it. Would I have agreed with it? Probably not. But like, I would have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We keep going down rabbit holes here. Adnan, we have to talk about the horny students in this college. There is a horny epidemic. They need to be bonked on the head. The horny police is on this way. They have Adnan. And you already said this on the live stream without me, by the way. I have to point that out. I was at work, so it wasn't Adnan didn't forget me. He did forget me, but why is everyone in this game so goddamn horny, dude? Like, they're just like again, Max, good looking person. Like, we can both agree with that. She's a good looking person. I agree with that. But holy hell, dude, they're just like, so Max, banging or what? And then we have who's the bartender? What's her name? Amanda. Like, so are we gonna like kiss or what? And then like we get into a smash and pass.
It's
smash and pass. And it's just like Vin is just like, oh, there's plenty of bangable faculty here. How about that? How about that Gwen? Would you smash Gwen? I'm like, no. And it's just like, well, how about Moses? You would bang Moses all day. He's like, no. Why? What about me? I'm like, what is happening? And then like within 10 minutes, Amanda's trying to like make out with you. I'm like, dude, is she like have like bear pheromones on her? Like, what's wrong with Max? What's happening?
Let's not talk about the weird thing about going romancing one Amanda and not the other one, and it merges timelines. We'll come into this conversation in a minute if you've seen that.
My mouth is bleeding.
Yeah, the like this is what annoyed me. Because, like, for example, like as I said before, like this is the first Life is Strange game I've ever gone asexual because I had no interest in either.
Like this wasn't even me like saying like I don't want to choose a love interest. I just naturally played asexual. Like I didn't know you were about to play asexual, but like I just played asexual because I don't know. I think it was the same reason as you were having, because I think we both agreed that Max had a lot of trauma.
Yeah,
She's going through it, and maybe she's not ready for a relationship yet, whether it be
yeah.
Chloe died or that they fell apart. It's just like she's just like not there right now. And
You
to
need
me, always like Max always came off as asexual, in my opinion.
well,
Like
yeah,
even in the first Life is Strange, you know?
there's also that idea that she's on the spectrum. So it's like there is that kind of thing where again, it's that thing you project yourself on the Max in the first Life is Strange. You can be a 40-year-old guy, you can be a 50-year-old guy, you could be a guy who's married with 2 kids, you could be a young LGBT plus, identifying person. You'd associate yourself with Max because Max is very easy for that because of the way she's written. So it's like, even if, for example, if it's at the end of the first game where it's like you pick Max and Chloe, doesn't mean that they romanticize each other. It could just be a very pure, powerful platonic relationship. Again, obviously, I know which is what most people think in sense of like, a
Yeah.
love interest that they have with them, but it can work out in whichever variation ways you want. Um, but ultimately, like you said, it's like when you get to this game and it's just like pure horniness through and through,
Yeah.
and it's like these characters like pushing themselves on you again. Because this is what was annoying me, it's irking me. 'Cause it's like this isn't the kind of game I want to play because I'm trying to deal with like the fact that you've written the character out that I wanted to keep in this game, and it's like
Yeah.
you're now pushing it because you're trying to force the romance into a new direction
I've
with the game.
I've never played a game that pushed romance so hard. And I've played Mass
Poorly as
Effect
well.
multiple times. Like
Yeah.
I've like it is pushed on you in a way that I'm just like, it wants you to like have a three-way. Like
Yeah.
it's so insane, dude. Like how much they're pushing romance on this. I've played like you've discussed that you don't play a lot of games. I play a
Yeah.
lot of RPGs. I do. And there's always romance options. There's always romance options.
Mhm.
I mean, look at Baldur's Gate 3. God dang, like don't turn on your computer. You have to put on incognito mode just to put on Baldur's Gate 3 because god dang the romance options. And even that game I feel like doesn't push as hard as this game,
No.
you know?
This game pushes it from every angle. And it has even that trophy where it's like you romance both of them, and it's like this makes no sense. It's like why are we
Yeah.
pushing from 2 angles? It's like even Vinland, it's not really a romance option. He's like a cheap Warren. He's like Warren from Timu, for example. Like as an example, it's like he's just a really cheap version. But that's why I keep throwing
Yeah.
shades at this game because it's like it's insulting my intelligence because it's like he is not anywhere near associated the kind of guy that Max would even show any ounce with. And then on top of that, for example, why would Max romance this guy if he's been banging Safi? What the hell?
Yeah.
It's like, does she go
Yeah.
for frat boys now all of a sudden? Or, I know they try and like unload his story, for example, where it's like he's not a frat boy and it's like he's come from this like really poor background and he's trying to make a name for himself. But again, he comes across as the most deeply dislikable person with no
Yeah.
redeeming factors. And it's like when you play this game, they keep pushing it on you, and it becomes really, really insulting because it's like it's not
None of it
natural.
feels
It's not.
natural. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
because
exactly.
again,
That's all
like
about.
in True Colors, it felt natural for Alex to go after Steph. Like that,
Yeah.
the writing for that game, dude, it it pushed it on you, quotations kind of, but in a way it pushed it on you because it felt natural.
Yeah.
A lot of people connected with Max and Chloe. I found Max to be more on the asexual side, but
Yeah.
the game kind of pushes in the direction that she wants to be with Chloe because it feels natural. Nothing about these romance options feel natural at
Nah.
all. Like they just feel so forced. Like again, like talking with Amanda, like you say, like, "Hey, Amanda, you want to hang out? Is this like for banging purposes, or are we just homies?" I'm like, I just met you. What are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I just have to know. Do you want to kiss at the event? I'm like, no, we're just friends. It's like, oh, okay. And like, dude, I made it so clear to Amanda that we're just friends. Like even in the cabin or like the home, it's like, so oh, can I just say, can I just say that the whole like, oh yeah, like I could eat you under the table. What a stretch, dude. What a stretch. They're saying like, oh, you mean eat me under the table? I'm like, what a goddamn stretch, dude. What a stretch. That's a Yoda stretch. Like, dude, I got so pissed on that line. And it's like, oh, you can like again, drink you under the table. I could eat you under the table. And then Amanda's like, ho ho ho. No, Amanda, we're just friends. Chill. relax. And it's just like over and over again, we're just friends. And then it finally gets to the final scene right after Vin's doing smash or pass with me. And then we go over to Amanda. It's like, so we tonguing or what? Amanda, God damn it, we're just friends. My neck veins are gonna pop.
There's even that moment as well later in the game with Safi, and it's like you talk about Vin Lang, and it's like, and there's like a weird dialogue when Max is like, it's romantic that he threw like a skull through her windshield. So there's like a line of dialogue in a certain circumstance where it's like you can pick, and it's like she's like romantic but a bit weird. You know, like, he threw like a skull through a window. It's like, what? It's like there's. Let me address this as well.
What was that with it? The whole skull thing? What was that about? It was never solved. Like, why?
No, it's Vin. It's Vin that does it apparently.
Yeah, apparently he does it.
But
My
it's
God,
just
my neck hurts,
boring.
dude.
Yeah, it's just really thingy. Also, as well, one thing that you said there as well, which is annoying. It feels natural in like other games, and it feels like this one they keep pushing it back on you when you say no, which is like the like what's just infuriating with this game. But let me just say this as well, because you've seen the tweet as well, and a couple of things that are going around. You can romance Amanda in another timeline. But if you get rejected by one Amanda, you can go into that other timeline and romance that one. But then at the end of the game, they merge the timeline. So that Amanda gets that Amanda's memory. So basically, that Amanda now has memories of you basically being rejected by the other Amanda, and you've gone and romanced her. And it's like
And by the way, merging timelines is not going to create a storm.
We'll come on side in a little bit. Like, let's get on side in a little bit. But let me just like talk about this part as well.
Go for it. Yeah.
Right. You do that entire Amanda storyline where, for example, you can romance an Amanda in another storyline, even though you get rejected by this one, and you go and do some underhanded shady practice there. They merge the timeline, so that Amanda now has memories of you romancing her in another one when she's already rejected you. And apparently, Zach Garris was the problem at Deck 9. No, apparently he was the problem with a spiking storyline. A spiking storyline, if your inept writing team at Deck 9 had actually executed properly, because if you look at the True Color story, a spiking storyline, which is relevant in the modern context of actual culture in terms of UK culture, US culture, a very powerful message to send to young women, to educate them, to help them understand something. Because, for example, if you raise awareness on it, and when I mean educate them, if you raise awareness for them, they can avoid something like this because they'll be very careful about it. Because when spiking happens, it usually happens with someone they might know, in terms of it might be someone they've met, and they will do something with that. And also as well, it makes them aware, because it's like, actually, you should always be very aware about it. And he suggests this, but no, we can't do that because of this reason. And again, as well, this is Mallory Littleton, who was on the Deck 9 writing team in the narrative lead role, who's also working on this game before she got laid off at Deck 9. And I was saying people like Elizabeth Blau and Felicia Kwan and Aisha Farah and all these people who are on the Deck 9 writing team for this game. No, but we're not going to draw the line at Amanda being romanced in another timeline, which has already been rejected in this one. No, that isn't just some weird, abhorrent practice. And also, it's out of practice for Max, because Max would not do that. Oh my God, Yeah. As I said before, with the IGN piece of stuff, there are some big holes there, and this another storyline again which showed it. I can't believe, for example, you think that this is acceptable behavior, but no.
Not just like that, but like they're giving him like 9 out of 10s IGN. I know we're talking about the report, but like the same people who wrote this article, didn't they give it a 10 out of 10?
Different author.
What's that?
It's a different author that reviewed it.
Okay.
Rebecca Valentine wrote the piece in IGN for the hit piece, but then there's a different guy who wrote this. By the way, as well, I think Life is Studio might have done a bit of digging. We'll come on to review scores later. I think the guy who reviewed Life is Strange Double Exposure for IGN gave it that high score, reviewed the remaster collection.
Wow,
which says a lot. Like, I'm not gonna suggest anything else, but I'm like, it speaks volumes about, like, what you think of Life is Strange if you're reviewing that at a high level. I can't believe that's the storyline, because even itself, let me just go back to that spiking thing. That could have worked, for example. It's set in a bar, the game's set in a bar.
Yeah.
Alex puts unwavering trust in Jed. He could easily do loads of points in the story where he's like, Alex, you can't leave a glass on your own. It's like, you can't leave that. You set the story up for it. But with this, there's no setup for the fact that Max is going romanticizing another Amanda. Again, horniness on another level, and also borderlining on the deeply unethical. No, sorry, not borderlining on unethical.
Deeply unethical.
It is deeply unethical. I'm sorry, I was trying to give them a bit of kudos there. No, deeply unethical. And you don't even teach any repercussions from that. It's like, even like with Amanda, it's like, oh, maybe we can rekindle this in a sequel or something. It's like, please no. It's like we don't even want to see this storyline. We don't want to see any of these writers work on this game ever again. It's like horrible, 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 horrible in every
Yeah.
sense of the way. No
Can we
creative
talk
vision.
about the post credit scene?
If we must. I think we've like scooched around other things as well among this game as well. We'll come back on some of the other plot points, but yeah, let's get digging into the.
We could have alluded a little bit in the story that Diamond had powers. Like what part of the story that's like it even hinted at the fact? Like we could have had something that. What's that?
It would be at the point where she's in the nightmare sequence because she turns up in normal. When you bump into her in the courtyard. But again, no, but it's not your fault for not noticing it. They don't explain it because as you're about to explain, continue.
No, just like we could have gone into like something she knew about Vin, or that she just said like she kind of slipped out the tongue. He's like, oh yeah, Vin did this before. Oh wait, like maybe she has the rebind powers now. Like Max doesn't because it was transferred over to another spirit box. I don't know. There could have been something that could have alluded, but Diamond is just a normal person the entire game. Like in fact, like she just says like, oh, I can just text what's his name? The guy working the projector.
Reggie.
Yeah, I could just text Reggie like these excuses. Not even of just like a slip up, but like, oh, I could do this. What did you say? Oh, nothing. But it's like in the obvious sense, we get to the post credit scene, and by the way, I've rejected Safi's offer. Like she's like, join me. We
Also,
can rule the world. Yeah,
it's weird that that's the higher option of people choosing Safi's option. Like, what the hell happened there?
I'm like, no, like rule the world. You just shot your mom because you didn't get a book published. Why the hell would ever like? Oh, why aren't you standing with me? I thought we were homies. No, we're not. I don't know what made you think that you created a storm because Nepo Baby didn't get her little book publishing deal. You shot your mom because your mommy said no. No. And then like at the very end, it's like, oh, I know what those nosebleeds are. And like, do you? Because like a lot of people get nosebleeds. Like, oh, not like a nosebleed like that. What does that mean?
Where's Daniel and Alex's nosebleed?
Yeah. Daniel did no, there's nothing. There's no nosebleed.
But Adam, this is the ultimate problem because, for example, they give Safi nosebleeds in the game, and that's like the link to the storm. And it's like, no, it's not a link to the storm because Max's rewind is linked to the storm, and her nosebleeds are linked to her using time in a wrong way. Safi's does not work that way, so you can't give her a nosebleed. As I said with Diamond, it's an interesting character. You said it was one of the characters you're looking forward to learning more about before the game came out. But Diamond is an interesting character if you actually hinted to it at the story. So, for example, it could have been like you give her an Abraxas cube and something like transfers over to it, etc.
Sure.
Give that. Because again, it doesn't explain why Max can rewind a photo in the game. It doesn't rewind why she can rewind a moment when Alderman does that thing with her, but she can still use her rewind time. But then she's told that she doesn't. It evolved into a split timeline. The only point that it really explains that Diamond has any powers is when she's in that 5th chapter and she turns up in the courtyard because she's the only person you don't do a double exposure photo for in terms of like out of all the 10 characters we have in this game, because apparently we don't have a bigger budget for more characters. That's all Caledon University is, 10 characters. She's the only one that you don't really take a double exposure photo of. Amanda as well, I think, maybe. But no, you don't take a double exposure photo and she's relevant. She's like, how
Amanda... Oh, wait, I don't know. I don't
think you do. You do take Gwen, you take Lucas. I don't think you take Loretta, actually. There's another plot point, if anything, like we need to like address. The thing with Diamond is that she recognizes that she's in the courtyard, so she knows that she's there, and she's aware of like the powers. She's aware of like the fact like she's in this weird dimension. I think that's your allusion to Diamond having powers. But to put her in the post credit scene with Safi with her nose being like, oh, it's not stopping. It's like, really?
Yeah.
It's like, really? Again, abhorrent writing. If I was in the industry reviewing this game, I would have slaughtered it in so many ways. And I would have fought with my editor being, you cannot change this review score in any way, shape, or form. The reflection of my text would have been representative of what I'm saying in the score. And that's the problem with it, because this is not masterful storytelling. It is abhorrently atrocious because you set up that entire thing at the end of the game. It makes no difference, Adam. If you choose to accept her offer or not, it doesn't make a difference.
How about this? We close with your thoughts on Loretta, and then we'll go into our reviews.
Oh my god, I still think there's like, I still think there's like tons of stuff we haven't even addressed yet.
There's
But like,
tons of
Jesus.
stuff, but like at the same time, it's just like there's a lot of mess to break down because there's a lot of different hands in this cookie jar, dude. Like Loretta Rice,
Oh my god.
just an absolute waste of a character. Like it really
Yeah,
was.
but they were all waste of characters though. This is the thing: the acting is great on all fronts because they are carrying terrible dialogue and terrible scripts. So, for example, Loretta Rice is built up really big in the marketing, like she's going to be some bigger character, like snooping around Max and stuff. She's in like a couple of scenes, then she disappears for like chapters 3, 4, whichever variation it is. Then in chapter 5, she randomly turns up in the nightmare sequence. Then she's not even at the end of the game. So why is she not in the bar with the rest of the characters?
Dude, I had no, like the first time you meet Loretta, I had no interest in knowing her as a person. Like once she's like saying like, you were friends, yeah? And it's just like accusing you. I was like, what the hell, dude? Like you're not really making me like want to like Loretta. And it's
No.
just like, and I called her out on her bluff and she's like, oh, Max has been listening to your phone calls. It's like, what the heck? What are you doing? And then Gwen takes it personally. And I was like, what is happening, dude? I don't know. It was a mess.
It's a mess because it's like Rachel Kroll, who plays Gwen, is a fantastic. I think she's fantastic in that game. I think Gwen is
Yes.
such a cool character. It's like what we always wanted with like Izzy, for example. She gives that good, like really cool vibe of a character. And it's just great to see her performance. Again, that character is carried by Rachel Kroll. Lucas Marco Alberto Robinson is carrying a very badly written character. He's doing a great performance. It is down to very atrocious writing and dialogue that doesn't give any redeeming things. Vince Alderman, again, comes across as a one-dimensional cop. Stop making cops like they're the enemies of the world. For example, Felicia Kwan, go and play Life is Strange 2, which shows you juxtaposition between different cops, good cop, bad cop. These people all don't hate Sean because he's Hispanic. They actually show cops who sympathize with him, see him as a young man, see him as someone who's distressed. They're not all like that. They show very early on in the game that his father gets killed by police brutality, but they show a different side to cops. Clever storytelling, clear writing. Same with like Loretta
Very
Rice.
demure.
This game is not very demure. I'm not feeling very demure with this game. It's just
No.
really, really bad writing from start to finish. Every sense of the word. The first 2 chapters are probably the strongest of the game, if anything else. 3, I've seen some people saying that's one of the best chapters in the entire series.
Okay, what is your opinion about chapter 3? Because like everybody had said chapter 3 was good. I'm like,
go and touch
what are you
grass.
smoking? Yeah,
go and touch grass. Like if you think that's good a chapter, it's okay. It feels the most Life is Strange-ish, like in terms of
yes,
like
I agree.
plot elements and stories. But then the minute Vince Alderman gets dragged through the hole and the opening sequence, I'm like, come on, man,
dude. Yeah, no, like chapters 1 and 2 were fine in my
because it
opinion. I'm
grounded.
like, yeah, they were grounded. They were just fine. And then 4 and 5, I was like you could just combine those two. You could just combine those two of just like utter bullshit, dude. Like when you were texting me and like we were having like video messages of like what was happening, I was like, dude, wait till you get to chapter 5. It is insanely just
It doesn't make any
unhinged.
sense, Adam, though. If you have not
Doesn't.
played the first Life is Strange, it will make no sense. And the problem is with that as well, you've not trickled any of that story within the game. So it's like,
Yeah.
the Jefferson stuff, all this other stuff. If no one has any context with it, you're not going to understand what's happening here. It feels like nostalgia baiting, which is what this entire game is. It feels like
Also,
pure nostalgia bait.
why was Max in the place of Nathan Prescott in the bathroom? What the hell was that about? Like Safi being Chloe, then Nate, like the hell was that about? How can you interpret that? You
I
know?
think I don't know. I don't even know what the meaning behind that is. They probably don't want to draw Nathan Prescott. As you can see with you can see with the Chloe Price sprite in the game, even in the
Yeah.
messages, they don't want to draw her. It's like, we'll save a bit of money there. And same with Max's mum and dad. Like, let's not show the sprites there. I think it's the idea that she's like watching that relationship with Safi manifest the way it is. And obviously
Yeah.
it's that kind of cheap pop where she does the rewind thing. She's like, and she like, watches from a distance. But again, it makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Amazing.
And also as well, why are we back in that freaking bowling alley at the beginning of the game? It's like, Adam, one more thing as well.
Yeah.
The entire opening section of that game of Life is Strange Double Exposure, you set it up by taking photos in the bowling alley.
In the bowling alley. Yeah.
Why do we not do that in the game? all you do is pick up Polaroids that have like the bottle cap moment from True Colors. You pick it up and it puts a memory. Why do we not take photos? The entire point of the great part of the first Life is Strange
You
is that you
can.
took
It's just
photos.
there's snapshots that you can take.
Oh, God. Can you?
Yeah, like you can go up to a person instead of like talking to them, you can take a snapshot of them.
Oh yeah, but that's really generic though. I mean, like in the first Life is Strange, it was set up in certain ways. Even some of the rewind mechanics were playing to it as well. Where you take a
Yeah.
picture of the squirrel, or you'd like rewind in a certain way to set up the shot. But it's like none of that exists. Yeah, the snapshot's a bit weird. I was just doing it, and I was like, why am I double exposuring every photo? It's like they didn't even show Safi in any of the photos. Like, as kind of like a setup for double exposure. It's just like
Yep.
you can double exposure the photo, and I'm like making really weird looking photos. What is wrong with this game? From start to finish, this game is a mess. And it's like we haven't even.
Dude.
What point did it fall off for you?
We talk about chapters or like the actual moment I was falling off.
I think both. Or was it in unison?
So you know what? I think okay, if I'm gonna be honest here, chapter 1, I was just like, okay, I think I know what we're in for here. Kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, this is something interesting. This is fine, you know. Chapter 2, I was just like, this is just corny. You know, this is just corny, but like
Yeah.
I'm used to, as a Life is Strange fan, I'm used to it. Just like as a Sixers fan, I'm not used to winning. You know, as a Life is Strange fan, I'm not used to like no corniness. It was the opening to chapter 3 that I was just like, there is no goddamn way I'm getting into this game, dude. Because like once Alderman enters the house, I think I was just like, are you insane, dude? Because like he just goes 0 to 100, and I'm like, oh my god. And then once I think that's where I started to teeter off. And then once Alderman goes through the portal, I was like, I've had enough. I've had enough.
Yeah.
I've had enough, dude. But chapters 1 and 2, I was just like, it's just corny. It's just gonna be a corny story. I think not. I think I'm here for it, but no. Chapter 3, I think early on I fell off.
Yeah, 1 and 2 are corny, and they are cringe for me. They're bad.
They're
cringe.
cringe. But we're
not-
Life is Strange fans. We're used to cringe.
But as I've said before, in my tweets as well, it's like Life is Strange 1 is cringe, but wholesome cringe. So it's like when Max does
Yeah.
it, it's like fits with her character because she has personality in what she's doing. This
Yes.
Max doesn't have that, and it's like when you play the
No.
first 2 chapters, it's like it's really bad cringe. The dialogue stays cringe. 3 is like I'm like if anyone thinks this is one of the best chapters or episodes in the entire series, go and touch grass, because it's like it's a very cheap version of Chaos Theory as an episode. Because it's like, for example, like
Agreed.
with Chaos Theory with the first Life is Strange, it's like they explain why you can jump into a photo and why you can do this. It's like with this game, it's just Alderman getting sucked through a portal and all these other weird things, and then Safi turning up as a shapeshifter. And then 4 and 5 is just an absolute car crash from start to finish. It's like a battering ram of a car crash. It's like just people who had no idea how to land a game, or like even tell it. If you're going down this ape version of the game, no idea how to do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like a train wreck seeing this game play out, and it's like it's just bad writing, bad all that, and I'm like honestly, like Adam. Before we like get into the other parts as well, I'm not even too bothered about going over 2 hours as well. Even this podcast, like I usually try and cap it 2 hours, but I don't really care because I'm really angry with this game. Max Caulfield will return. Dun dun dun.
So dumb. So actually ridiculously stupid, dude. Holy hell.
Did you see my Goldberg meme by any chance on Twitter, where it's like with the Diaz brothers? It's got a Square Enix logo over it. It's like,
Yes,
it's like,
I saw that. Yeah.
I was like very proud of that. I was like timing that. I was like, oh.
No, I'm like, Max Caulfield will return. I'm just like, dude, this isn't what Life is Strange is, man. This isn't what life. I like how Life is Strange is a different characters every time. What's the word I'm looking for?
An anthology.
In an anthology, you know, different stories, like it's different perspectives here. The fact that we're trying to gather up the Avengers is just kind of like that's again, it's going into this is how they're treating it, because once again, Safi says we're gods. I'm like, that's not the point of the powers. What are you talking about? The point of the powers is the trauma. Like it's trauma will make you do terrible things. And Michelle Coe, that's how he wrote it. And we're treating it like it's a superpower demigod Thor bullshit. And I'm like, and once again, I'm not doubting that the team at Deck 9 doesn't love Life is Strange, but you can both love something and misinterpret it all the time. Like you can love Coheed and Cambria and not know what the story is about. I can love Adnan and not understand why he says squeaky bum time. Like there's so many things that I can love and misinterpret, you know?
You're defending the indefensible here because that entire point. I feel like for me, if anything, it feels like they've basically done that. Max Caulfield will return, so they don't have to like hide Hannah Tell in Colorado if she does come back for like that role and stuff.
Yeah.
But my God, it's like the most Avengers Marvel. Like I keep laughing about it. I keep saying like Bob Iger knows already that you can't keep doing MCU content. Like Disney, if you ever follow their earnings and stuff, they are well aware that the cinematic universe no longer has that same heels. And also as well, 2012 called it wants MCU and Marvel Cinematic Universe back because no one does that stuff anymore because they realize people have been fatigued. So if Square Enix did this like 5 years ago, I'm like, okay, it feels like they're trying to get on the tail end of it.
Sure.
It's well gone, that train. That
yeah, if this happened in 2019, 2018, 2019, like it would have been like, all right, you're hopping on the trend, fine. But that trend, like you said, it's well over a decade old.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, dude. Like, you might as well put a screaming goat in the game. Like, if you're gonna hop on like bad trends, dude.
It's like,
yeah.
It's like because when you see it pop on the screen, I'm like, I can't believe this is even a thing. It's like how is it's like a poor version of like the Back to the Futures to be continued. Like at least that had like continuity because it is set like it's like a spaghetti western style, like sci-fi fiction-y kind of thing. It's like this game is now trying to become science fiction-y. It's like Max Caulfield return, and you also as well. And if you get the chance, watch Stauder's interviews and Felicia Kwan at the minute. They're doing interviews post game, and they're like, "Ooh, it looks exciting to set up for a sequel. We haven't thought about any ideas." It's like, shut up, man.
Yeah,
it's like
you
this
have.
is PR
Stop
talk.
it.
It's like you guys are already all out. It's like, shut up, man. It's like clearly you know what's happening here. It's like, oh no, we've got some potential plot ideas to follow, and oh no, it'd be great to make a sequel. Yeah, of course, right. Honestly, I'm like, I was so wound up. I was like, because that was just, I like was like
once again
angry.
when people are saying that like I'm returning the game because there's no Chloe, I'm like, that is just the tip of the iceberg of what's wrong with this game. I'm glad you returned it, but it's not the biggest.
I will say you could easily have made this game about 50 times better if you had thrown all the Life is Strange writing team out and put the Expanse team on it and got Stauder out the director's chair and replaced him with someone who's like properly a director, because the development hell that this game seems to have gone through is just like, I'm like, who is even making this game? It's like it's lacking a creative vision. So even when you said before about anthology, Zach Garris says it in one of his True Colors presentations I was watching recently. He respects the idea of what the first game was doing set in anthology. Think what you will about True Colors, but every game prior to Double Exposure had someone that you could rely on. Garris, Chris Floyd and Webb Pickersgill, Michel Coe, Raoul Barbe, creative visions at least on it. Same with, for example, the other team with Deck 9, The Expanse. Stefan Frost was the game director. When we spoke to him, we knew he was in charge. He was running the show. Everyone else did what he did with that. We didn't hear anything bad about that game. The only thing that came out bad about The Expanse was the layoffs that happened afterwards, and that was out of The Expanse's control. Yes. Very well manufactured product. This game just screams problem from problem to start to end. And I said this with Max Caulfield as well. They didn't get Hannah Tell's input on this. They wrote Max Caulfield and then made Hannah Tell do the dialogue. Look at what happened with Sean Diaz. They took his feedback on. They took on Gonzalo Martin's feedback. Gonzalo Martin tweaked that character with their support. Gonzalo Martin wins a BAFTA, and it shows in the performance. Every other cringe moment in this game, Hannah Tell is carrying this game. It's like the performance of a lifetime, because it's not even that she's just doing a great performance about the acting. She's carrying this game. And it's like, even for the Life is Strange fans who can't see the optics of how bad this game is, that's it.
Yeah. Review time?
Yes. Before we do that as well, we will come back to some of these other plot points, because we'll probably be up here about 4 or 5 hours, because I know we scraped over different plot points from this game. I think we might even spend a bit of time.
There's a lot to break down. There's a lot of garbage to break down.
Yeah, it's like a steaming dump of it. So I think we might come back and revisit certain points and kind of go through the game and then explore them. I might even go back and play the game and try and understand the story of it, because it doesn't make any sense, if anything. But we will go into review segment. But one more thing, Adam, before we go into that, I'm going to pull up a screenshot quickly here as well. This is my shade to the writers, because I did this in a little bit of an angry zestiness. And apparently it went a little bit it actually got a lot of traction. But as you can see here as well, so my favorite part in the entire part of the later game was when the writers broke the fourth wall and told us how they came up with the rest of the story. And if you can see on the screen, it says, Max says, I have no idea, kind of making this thing up as I go.
Yeah.
That is the writing team. The first thing you need to do, and I don't go after people, but in criticism, if I was writing a critical review, fire every single person on that Deck 9 writing team that's on the Life is Strange project, specifically in head roles, and get Stauder out that role as well as the game director. Shocking. And this isn't even, for example, as you said earlier about harassment or those kind of things as well, like in terms of tweets. This is about objective criticism in the game as well, because Stauder has no vision on this game at all in any way,
Yes.
shape, or form. He can talk about doing the Expanse and he can talk about Telltale games he worked on. His creative vision is completely gone. Wherever he came into this project, it's completely gone on this.
Yeah.
And the writing team as well needs to go as well, because like Felicia Kwan, how she got to the narrative director's role, I'm now aspiring to become a game director at this point, because if she can make it, then I can definitely make it. Because it's,
Yeah.
and it's simple
Where's
as that.
Gary Whitta? Put Gary Whitta in here.
He's a very talented writer. Like,
Yeah,
my
put Gary
word,
Whitta
like,
in.
yeah, my
Yeah.
word, he's a talented writer. But this just shows you the difference between those kind of people. And I'm being very critical, because it's the same with like anything else as well. I find that very interesting in film reviews, by the way. It's like when they criticize the acting performances, but they might not criticize like the cinematographer or the director. They always like leave it blank, but it's always like the director gets it. No,
Yep.
it's the game developers at this point. The people who've worked on this project have created a catastrophic mess, and they need to be held accountable for that. And it's like that with me. I won't buy another Life is Strange game until Stauder and Felicia Kwan and these people are chucked off this project, because it is not worth it. This is not Life is Strange anymore. Right, review segment.
Yes.
Okay, so as we get into the review segment, we're going to start off quickly with some discussion about the review scores, Adam. So here we go. So Metacritic is here. I'm going to pull it up. This game has scored a 73 so
Hey, it's a
far.
picture of me
at
and
the
you.
time of- Yeah, you're Tamara Hossein. I'm Lucy James. So, Adam, Life is Strange Double Exposure has been reviewed here, and this is, I'm using the PS5 one. It's got the most reviews, if anything. And there's 53 critic reviews. It's got a 73 score. Obviously, it's getting review bombed a little bit on the user score. I think some of it's review bombed, some of it's fair as well. This is the lowest Life is Strange score for any game, by the way.
Yeah.
For any
Yep.
game. For Captain Spirit, for Life is Strange 2, 1, True Colors, it is the lowest entry in the entire franchise. Mixed review scores across the board. Again, we know, as we've talked about before, IGN is one of the highest ratings. There's more ratings coming in. But IGN is one of the highest at 9, which I don't know how that's happened. So that's that. And then quickly just jumping into this before we get into the reviews part of this. So here's OpenCritic as well, Adam. So OpenCritic is another aggregator platform similar to Metacritic. It's now been recommended by 53% critics, as you can see there. It's got a fair rating. And this is the only Life is Strange game in this franchise that's got a fair rating. Every single other one has a strong rating. Captain Spirit, Life is Strange 2, True Colors, Life is Strange 1, all have, Before the Storm, all have fair, strong ratings. This is the only one that has a fair rating. So pretty much across the board, a deep, deep divide on the review scores. I'm also very surprised at some of the review scores. So, for example, even IGN giving it a 9, which is like, they gave True Colors a 9.
Not just
But I'm like,
IGN, but like that. Oh my god, the picture that I shared with you, like all these review scores. I'm like, are you insane, dude?
By the way, if you listen to this guy as well, the funny part I said to Adam in response to that, you can see in the graphic, they pulled up IGN, they pulled up, I think, like CG Magazine or something, and they pulled up both their quotes and also the review score, because it tells you how many reviews they're actually picking from here of like really high scores. My favorite one was when they retweeted the Houston Press, because everyone goes to their gaming coverage for the Houston Press and 5 out of 5 ratings, because I'm like, that's the go-to reliable source for video game content.
Yeah.
Let's be real as well. Like, it's only the major websites that matter in terms of critical perspective. You're not going to be taking like Game Potato or something as a kind of serious score. It's only people really care about the bigger names, if anything.
What did Hardcore Gamer give it?
That is actually an interesting question. I think they might give it like a 3.
Okay.
Do you know what, as well? It's because they're lacking a great critic now on that.
Because Digital Chumps gave it a 9 out of 10.
Oh, well, I go to my content for Digital Chumps all the time, don't I? That's the go-to place.
Yeah, these are just insane scores, dude.
So Life is, oh wow, essentially it got 3 out of 5, which is maybe a 6 out of 10-ish on Hardcore Gamer. So yeah, they gave it 3 out of 5 there. Whatever promise Life is Strange Double Exposure has, be it its beautiful setting, fun and likable characters, or its intriguing setup, ends up being undermined by a scattershot narrative that never comes together. And unfortunately, with a lack of substantial gameplay or meaningful choices, that leaves this as a so-and-so adventure at best, and what is arguably the lowest ranking game in the series. Hopefully, Life is Strange can rebound back, but for now, it's not a pretty picture. It's like Kyle that posted that. Yeah, it's Kyle Leclerc. Oh, damn. I think with the way he's written that at the end, is like you could have dropped it a bit more on the score. If anything, it seems pretty more brutal than what he's giving it.
I wholeheartedly agree with that review, though.
So
What are
yeah,
we
it's
giving
it's
it?
very like that's even without mentioning. I think the Chloe thing should be mentioned in a lot more reviews. That's like again, that's a big
Yeah.
issue with like not getting specialist reviewers and getting people who know their franchise. It's like me, for example, trying to review like Minecraft, for example. I would have nowhere near where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
But I'd rather like I picked this when I was in the industry. I picked the reviews I was reviewing because I was like, I can do that. I can do that. I have a speciality in that. And I can focus on it. That's why I never reviewed, for example, like Forza Motorsport. It's like, what am I going to do with Forza Motorsport, for example? Like, I don't really know that kind of genre of like games.
I would just write down 10 out of 10. Vroom vroom.
I'd be like, oh bloody hell, driving down the road here. 9.5 out of 10. No, I think like yeah, it's not looking good. So I think if anything, I suppose to Adam about this as well, the review score like kind of segment as well, because StrangeCast has its own. I always see it as StrangeCast has its own viewpoint. It's like it's got its own view of whatever you recommend and stuff. And I said to him like our rating system. I don't think we really did this for True Colors, but our rating system for Life is Strange games here at this point is like that same hardcore gamer thing. So it's a 10-point scale, but in a five scenario. So it's like 5 stars, and you can go from like 1.1, 1.5 to 2.5. So it's a 10-point scale in a 5 version. Would you like to go first?
I want to see, because I think I already showed you my review on Channel 3 what I gave it. I want to see if it matches.
I don't think you did actually.
Okay, I want to see if it matches.
So if I was genuinely reviewing this professionally within the gaming industry, if I was still there, I give very few games a very low score. I think if you look at my open critic score, I give it quite high in certain things. And I reviewed a lot of the individual episodes, reviewed some of the full games of Life is Strange as well. This would be the lowest Life is Strange game I'd ever rate if I was working that. The positives would be, again, the soundtrack, the acting, the certain visual set pieces. The downplay would be the absolute abhorrent mess of the narrative, the creative vision, plot lines, storylines, dialogue writing. All this would go down. If I was reviewing it, and I was thinking about this for a long time, and I'm not even going to be like fair or harsh and stuff like that. If I was genuinely reviewing this game, it would get, actually, no, I'll be this. If I was being harsh, it would get a 2 rating out of 5. Otherwise, it'd get a 2.5. I think I'd probably settle on a 2.5, being reasonable, but it'd be a pretty scathing assessment. Oh, and we got the screen share coming up for Adam. Here he is.
There it is.
What have we got here?
Yeah.
2 out of 5 from Adam there.
2 out of 5. I gave it a 2 out of 5 for the peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich.
So even I'm being generous by 2.5, a little bit.
Yeah, no, I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. It's just because like I dropped it from 3 only because like, yeah, I was about to give it a 3 because like I do like the gameplay. I think the gameplay is great. The reason why I'm dropping is that the gameplay is a dud. Like there's no story. There's no story. There's no utilization of the gameplay. Like I was looking forward to the time jumps. I was looking forward to solving the puzzles. I was looking forward to it. It's just a big glob of nothing. But the only reason it has 2 and not 1 is because I don't know. There was something about it. It's just like it was charming in a way. Like I was enjoying the world. Like the world was nice. The world is a good place. It looks good. The sound design is nice. It's got a great soundtrack. It's just there's so many things about this game. It just drops the score to 2 that I'm just like, I don't recommend it. Like I said on my review, my take on the game, it's a peanut butter mayonnaise sandwich. It just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And the final point I made was good gameplay, bad story, not recommended. I just, if somebody would come up to me, it's like, oh, should I play Double Exposure? No.
Well, wait for £5 on offer. $5 and get it then, and then play it.
Yeah. Get it in a Walmart bargain bin, dude. It's just like, it's not it, man. Like, it's just not there.
I've been thinking about this review score for a while, like since I finished it and been walking around. And I don't agree when people say like this game can't be a 3 out of 10, for example, because I think you can. Because for example, when people like, oh well, the game functions and stuff, I've seen games get 1 out of 10s and they function. It's like 1 out of 10 is different because, like, for example, if I presented you Double Exposure and pulled out all the narrative and released it, would you give it a 1 out of 10? Of course you would, because there's no narrative in it. You can't, even if it looks gorgeous and the set pieces are perfect and stuff, and you can try and like praise it all at once, but it's a narrative game. It needs that. Ultimately, the thing with Double Exposure is this is like, the entire, as I said before, the entire structure collapses of the game because it relies on a narrative. It is a narrative adventure single player game. Adventure is second, narrative is first. It powers through the narrative. Again, try and jazz up split mechanics all you want. The entire point is you need to sell the narrative first, and they don't do that. It's poorly executed. It's poorly shown. This is a huge issue with Life is Strange Double Exposure, and being nice was 2.5, and I would probably even pivot towards a 2 because it's like there is not much redeeming here. Again, this is a game that insulted my intelligence, and it insulted my intelligence and many other people, including that, and I'll say this as well, it is a complete bastardization of Don't Nod's characters. Not just one of them, both of them. And it's like, I can't imagine, for example, what they think, because I've not spoken, so I've not done anything with that. I know Luke tweeted about them getting codes, but I can't imagine what Michel Coe must be thinking when he plays this game. Because he said as well in his tweets, he's like, it's their game, they can do whatever it want. But he also said, I probably won't recognize my characters anymore. And I think that's probably the most fair and damning assessment, because I don't think it's just Michel Coe that feels that way. I think it's people like you and everyone else out there, like barring a very few like small minority people. That's it. Yeah, I don't think there's much redeeming factors with this game. And I even went with an open mind. I'm being genuine. I went with an open mind, even before my snarky tweets, because even people would message me like, I think you're being like this. I'm like, no, it's being fair now, because when something is bad, that's it. You don't gobble up this. And I had this same issue with people with the Ultimate Edition. You establish a practice if you start saying, well, don't buy it and don't do this. No, you criticize it. You apply criticism to it. You walk people back on this, because otherwise the next Life is Strange, whenever it comes out, is going to be an Ultimate Edition, and you're going to be paying the same amount for 2 weeks early access, because they've established this now. Ultimately, I would come down with you and agree with it, being StrangeCast viewers 2 out of 5 stars.
2 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I think we can agree to that.
Yeah, which is a 10-point scale down to 2 stars, which again reflects a very, very, very poor entry. And I think it's probably the lowest entry in the Life is Strange franchise by a country mile in terms of ratings, if anything like that.
Agreed.
I don't think there's much. There's really, honestly, no redeeming factors on this game, if anything. And I'm actually, speaking of which, before we kind of wrap up here, I'm going to pull up one more thing just to quickly extend this. This is my. I think we'll come back to this for another conversation in the future. This is my power rankings currently after the Double Exposure's release. So that's where I currently stand now, and that's what
does NC stand for?
No change.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So Life is Strange 1 is no change. Life is Strange 2 is no change at number 2. Life is Strange True Colors has now moved up 1 before Storm has dropped 1, and Life is Strange Double Exposure is at bottom at a new entry. I was wondering where you stand on that. Where would you do that? Because I feel like you might be
Switch Life is Strange 2 and Before the Storm for me.
Sacrilegious. Comment on him. Get him out of here. Get him out of this project. Yeah, he's brought it down the rating. They're thinking that is fair. Though I think that's fair. I think Double Exposure is. I can't see going anywhere. If you like this, before you jump in the comments and start attacking us, and I bet you someone does it before they even watch this episode. If you enjoy this game, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed playing it. As I've shown before on Twitter, I don't go out attacking other people for their opinions. People came to my Twitter and told me how I should feel about the game, but you didn't see me going and telling other people how they should feel about it. So before you jump in the comments, I'm going to call you out now, because if you haven't watched this video, it's going to show a lot about it. If you enjoyed this game, great. Good luck with the future of this series, because me and him are going to be sitting here applying a lot of criticism to this, because you've basically taken the biggest, weirdest pivot I've ever seen in my entire life in a franchise. At the same time, you've absolutely butchered things from start to finish. That's my final point.
Yeah, honestly. Should I ask them to lick my taint?
Oh, well, I think they might charge a bit of cost for that with the cat content, if any. By the way, as well, the cat content is the funniest thing. I'm going to put that out there quickly, because I've watched the YouTube videos as well. Love Hannah Tell, love you, Hannah, and I love that Miso had the opportunity for that. But 8 minutes for about $30 extra, including on top of the weird cosmetic outfits.
8 minutes, dude.
And Adam as well. For modern capitalism, the greatest thing is that you give the cat back, so you don't even get to keep it. Yeah, it's not your cat.
My god, dude, it's just bananas, dude. That has to be the worst DLC option I've ever seen, dude. Barring the horse armor in Elder Scrolls, this has to be like one of the worst DLC options ever.
You know what? I think the horse armor might look even better than this Ultimate Edition, because the Ultimate Edition, what do you get out of it? Okay, think about the True Colors Ultimate Edition. At least you got the remastered collection. No matter how much of an abhorrent mess they are in certain respects, you still got 2 games out of it and a Wavelengths DLC. The Wavelengths DLC and 2 games as well from that, which were remastered. This has a cat for 8 or 10 minutes and cosmetic outfits as well, and a 2-week early access. And then on top of that as well, the in-game advert.
Yeah, when I shared that with you, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me, dude! You've got to be." And that, but again, when I put that tweet out there, I'm like, "This is not a developer decision. That is a Square Enix thing. Like, put it out there so that we can sell cat content."
Yeah.
Everything about this, it's not just developers. This is a publisher thing. Square Enix okayed this. Square Enix
Yeah.
like ordered this. Okay,
Yeah.
so we can put the blame on developers all we want, but like, can I just quote Jesse Pinkman on
Yeah.
Breaking Bad? They can't keep getting away with this.
No, they
Like, we
can't.
can't just keep like blaming developers and not blame Square.
15 British pounds for the Ultimate Edition upgrade. So you pay £15 at that point if you access it in the adverts, and you
Yep.
don't even get the 2 weeks early access. You just get the cat content and the outfits. £15. It should be
Yeah.
like 5 as an incentive at that point. Like, and then people are saying to me, it's like, oh, well, you know, don't do, you know, like, well, don't complain about it and don't buy it and blah, blah. And it's like, someone even said, like, you know, it's harmless. You just press A. I'm like, but put it in the main menu. Don't put it in the freaking game at
Yeah.
chapter 2, because it doesn't change. Even the advert feels misleading because it doesn't change the game. The cat
Doesn't
comes in the
change.
house and it stays in the house. It's like, oh, fantastic. Does this cat shapeshift into Safi? No, it clearly
Yeah.
doesn't.
Last point I'll make
Go on.
about Square. Square knew when Lost Records was coming out. They done did dirty. I know it. I know it for a fact. Here's why. Why release a game that's set in Christmas on the Halloween week? The game is literally set in Christmas time. There's a Krampus party. There is Christmas decorations. This game was a Christmas game, and yet you released it the same week as Halloween. And Lost Records was yet to put out a date, and it was a spooky game. Square knew when Lost Records was coming out. They knew, and they put it out just in spite of Don't Nod. I guarantee we don't know that. We don't know anything about that. I'm just saying, in my little tinfoil hat here, yum yum yum, my delightfully unhinged head, Square Enix did Don't Nod dirty.
It does feel like that. The funny part is it'll be interesting to see if they do them dirty afterwards with sequels. And if they take anything from this time jump that Lost Records is doing with the thing, it wouldn't surprise me. Something doesn't feel right in terms of like just even my gut feeling. It's not like I know something, but something feels like there's a gut feeling where there's a lot of things going bad with this. And I think even as well, it shows where I kept asking the marketing, being like, why are we not seeing more of the chapter 3, 4, 5? I knew this for the god almighty amount of whispers that started building up in this game, and people were just not happy with the state of this game. And it's like you could see it when it came out with the final 3 chapters. It's like it was just an absolute mess, if anything. And it's been shown as well pretty badly as well for that game. But yeah, I think like Lost Records has been harmed by that, by them moving it out into that period of February next year, where it's like being stuffed in with all the other games.
Right by Avowed.
Just literally in that. Yeah, because the Life is Strange Double Exposure would have been smashed in that area as well. Like, it wouldn't have stood a chance if they released it next February. It feels like they've pulled it forward, being like, actually, let's try and avoid all those other games. Because like Life is Strange is now going to lose all its legs. It's like, let's see how you actually pivot towards this and the production of the next game and stuff. It's like, we're going to have to see something for you to kind of like change people's opinions, because you've like, you know, dropped an absolute, you know, massive thing on it. But yeah.
But that's the other thing. I don't think they would have put a Life is Strange out in February, because again, it's set in Christmas. This was going to be a December release. I guarantee it, dude. This was supposed to be a December release, but they knew and they didn't. I guarantee it, dude. I would bet everything on that. But yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, it's a fair bet, but honestly, I feel very bleak about the future of Life is Strange now. I really feel quite bleak about it. Like, my position here is to critique things and be very, like, you know, ruthless with it. And I'll be ruthless towards those people that make it, including people like Stauder and Fleesh Kwan and those people. Like, you've dropped the biggest clanger ever in history on Life is Strange. And it's like, I can't even say this about Garrus. I can't say this about Pickersgill or like Floyd or Michelle, or, you know, that's like, you know, different. And even my optics are seeing different on those games. But yeah, honestly, we'll come back to some of the other conversations. You have any like certain points you want us to discuss in like future episodes, do let us know, because we'll try and like rescope them, because otherwise this would have been about 4 or 5 hours like going through several parts of this plot point. But my oh god, this is a bad game. And I literally bought this game because it's like I'm reviewing it for this podcast, this channel and stuff, because it's like I knew how bad this game was going to be, and even then it exceeded my expectations. I'd like set a little bit of copium level.
Bad.
It's like yeah, very accurate. That's what it is. It's laughably bad. And also as well, I'll be honest as well, it's very lucky to get a 2 out of 5 from StrangeCast, because I'm even verging on putting it on 1 if we continue this on, because I think it's infuriating as how bad of a game it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's call it wrap here. And unfortunately, we're not going to do any of the comments of the day or spread the arts. This is just the review segment as we've cut all the news out, but we'll be back to normal
Spread the arts.
schedule.
Listen to Grover Washington Jr.
Yeah, I'll play Life is Strange 1. That's the actual Life is Strange you want to play
Yes.
compared to this,
Yeah.
this absolute heaving mess. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Again, if you do want us to talk about any plot points, any story points or something, do let us know in the comments. We'll try and rediscover it. I think we're probably going to rediscover the Chloe and Max situation in another episode, because I think, can you really save that? That's a big question I have, and who's really the future of this series, like carrying it on. But yeah, let us know. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, as always, one more time, please drop a subscribe on the channel, turn notifications, like the video, and share your friends. Help support the channel, helps keep up to date with the channel. And StrangeCast is available on all podcast services. So we're available on Spotify with a video version. We're available on Apple Podcasts. Again, go and rate us. Go and download your episodes. You get instant access if you follow us on there. But yeah, we'll be back now later this month. It'll be Lost Records Journal back up next. I feel like they're teasing something there, so we might see a bit more Lost Records content. So it feels quite apt. We'll be back later this month. We'll probably be back with all the news, all the fallout. I'm sure we'll probably be talking about Avengers and all that other great stuff that we're going to be looking at with X-Men.
Yeah.
God, it kills my soul every time I talk about it in an even joking way. It's not even funny anymore. And also go and read Nicefield's review as well on Twitter, because if you think we're Life is Strange fans, if you think we're doing critical perspective, now there's a critical perspective you want to read from, because it says a lot when someone else in the fandom feels that strongly about it. Stay tuned. We're back next time. Until then, guys, see you later. Bye.
Later.
Ready for the mosh pit, Shaka Bra.